Welcome, everyone. Good evening. Welcome back to Quadjacks TV. Today is, what is today? It's Wednesday, September 19, 2012. At least that is the date here in the United States. On the Pacific Coast, which is where I find myself in Las Vegas. It is 7:19 Pacific. I am joined this evening by my good buddy, I'd like to say, my good buddy and Quadjacks Network colleague, you could say, although in poker we are not colleagues at all. We are not in the same league even, or in the same profession. Matt Wakeman, MJW 006, sir, are you with us?
I am, Marco, I am. It's Thursday the 20th of September in Australia on the East Coast.
Wow, you're in the future already.
We are.
That's great. Matt, so great to so great to speak to you again. I mean, I don't think I've spoken to you like vocally in a bit. You know, we Skype from time to time, but you haven't.
I've listened to you vocally. I listen to you and I talk back to you as I'm listening to your coverage of the W Cube. It's been fantastic.
I see. Well, you know what? I guess that's kind of the same thing. Listen, well, you haven't been on this stuff. I mean, it's funny because I feel like you've been on this W Cube in 2012, and yet you really haven't. You're just in chat so frequently, and you contribute so much insight, actually, that it feels like you're a bigger regular than like potential.
Oh, I wouldn't say that at all. I think, I mean, I've only really kind of got in chat a couple of times during the more interesting ones, although I generally have you guys switched on, like, while I'm ending my day, because it's easier for me to, because I've always got my web browser open, so it's easier for me to view, like, a final table on there than it is for me to, like, waste table space on my actual monitors, so. Plus, I get to listen to your voice, Marco, so how can I complain?
Thanks so much, Matt. You know, I wanted to ask you, what's it like? I mean, I know that for a professional like yourself, you could probably grind with a war taking place right behind you. But what's it like listening? Like, do we make for a good grinding companion?
Yeah, I enjoy the background noise, and it has to be soothing. So I don't like anything too intense. Like I like it lighthearted, which is what it is. So yeah. So yes, you do make for a fantastic background noise.
Well, that's good. Wow, that's one of the nicest things I've been told recently. Um,
We're at a final table, by the way.
Hello?
Hello, Marco. You just
Hi.
dropped out.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Like I said earlier, my internet is being silly recently or lately, so I beg your patience. But it shouldn't be too bad. I'm trying to run as few things as possible. Anyway, I guess I was trying to say that I'm excited about having you all to myself this evening because you know I'm a fan, and we're here to call the action on. And okay, so we are at the final table in the
Yes.
few minutes since we started. Final table of event number 50, which is the 1K No Limit Hold'em here in the W Coupe. It's event number 50, so we're almost done with the entire series. So this is one of the last events before we were done. Tell us a little bit, Matt. I'm not really sure to what extent you've been railing it today, but who's at this final table and who are some of these guys? I know that you were telling me earlier that you know a lot of them, that you're familiar with them.
Yes, I'm familiar with 7 of the final 9 players are regulars. I think the clear favorite at this point in time is Big Hooney, who most people will know as Chris Hoonigan, I believe. And for the last, since the final 2 tables really, and that was the only time that I really loaded these tables up, he's really dominated, which is kind of to be expected, I guess, because he has a lot of experience. In big field tournaments, especially deep, and closing them out. And he certainly has that edge where he's not afraid to apply tons of pressure,
Mhm.
which is what he's done, and really built his stack over the course of the final two tables and the final table bubble. So he's increased his stack from, I think it was like 1.2 million to just over 3 million, and is a clear chip leader at this point in time, and would be a massive favorite to take this out at this point in time. The other guys are Mike Leah, I believe his name is a tournament poker edge pro, and I believe you had some of the guys on here commentating at a
Yes.
couple of times.
And who is Mike Lee at this table?
He's
What's his
Go
name?
Leafs Go 8.
Go Leafs, go A.
Yep. And I believe he chopped the W Coupe main event last year. I could stand to be corrected, but I'm pretty sure he at least final tabled the W Coupe main event last year. So I expect him to be. He doesn't really grind, so I don't have a ton of experience against him. In my experiences against him, he's a lot more on the straightforward side of things. I don't really expect him to be doing anything too crazy, and I don't really expect him to be flipping, absurd hands like I would with Big Hooney at some stages. So, Vegeta R, Alex KP, Makari 6, Ziduart, and Elmerix are all mid high stakes MTT regulars. I don't know a ton about all of them, although I've played a bunch with them. And generally, when I'm playing against people, I tend to rely more on stats than having a memory for the thousands of players that I play against on a regular basis. So besides taking notes, I generally depend on stats, which I obviously don't have available to me right now because you have to be playing at the table
Sure.
in order to load those up. So yeah, the two unknown guys are M3 DYY and Ondas. Oh god, you can pronounce that, Marco. Who I believe, just in a quick browse of his results before, has had like 2 six-figure scores in his career. Andre, however we want to pronounce it.
And Andres Zezek. He looks like some Eastern Bloc like puppet dictator or something.
Indeed.
that might actually be like Sesescu or something. I'm not even sure. But go ahead.
So in a quick check of his results before the final table loaded up, I believe he's had 2 six-figure scores in his career. So it looks like he kind of went 6,000 games breaking even, and then he had 1 six-figure score for $130,000 on the 25th of the 6th this year. So I'm not sure 100% what to expect from him. I haven't seen him before, but he's obviously capable to some extent if he's been managed to be somewhat successful and profitable in the game. So
I see.
results can't tell a massive story, but
Well, I mean, so this is a pretty qualified final table. I mean, everyone seems to kind of have. Everyone seems to be pretty fairly accomplished, at least from what I hear from you.
yes, M3 would definitely be the anomaly here. And I did notice on the final table bubble that Big Hooney was taking advantage of the fact that he's probably the least accomplished player in this field. And certainly applying a ton of pressure on the final table bubble to him in particular.
Okay. How are we doing in terms of stack sizes? I mean, who's in the lead? Who's the short stack? And what is the average? And what do you think that will say about the pace of the action in the coming minutes, in the coming orbits?
The stacks are still quite deep for the most part. Elmerix is the only player under 20 big blinds. And the rest of the guys are all pretty evenly stacked between that 40 to where Big Hooney's got a ton of chips. He's got over 100 big blinds, so let's ignore him for a second. But the rest of the guys are a lot tighter in chips, pretty much between 40 and 70, 80 big blinds. So I'd expect there to be a decent amount of play, and I would expect there to be a decent amount of pressure applied given that there is one short stack. And if you notice that someone like Mukari has a decent seat in the sense that he's on Big Hooney's left, if he was on Big Hooney's right, being the second stack, it would be an awful seat for him, given that Hooney will, and we know that he will apply a bunch of pressure. And ICM wise, he can actually like really pound on him. So it'd be very hard for Mukari to do too much opening at all. With any kind of frequency, with Big Hooney to his left. However, with Big Hooney to his right, he will be able to open up a little bit and apply pressure to the stacks that are shorter than him, which I'm sure you've had discussions throughout the course of, like, from listening to it, throughout the course of W Coop about how having, say, M3, Go Leafs Go, Ziduart, and Andre. Let's just call him Andre. And Alex KP, all pretty close in stacks. So with ICM the way it is, you don't really want to be doing anything. You don't really want to be doing anything ridiculous that will land you out the door in ninth place, for example, because your actual tournament equity at this point in time is much greater than that.
Okay. Very good stuff, Matt. What are the payouts like?
I have no idea, Marco. I expect that it would be pretty large, though. $225,000 up top, 163 for second, 124 for third, and we'll go 14K for ninth. So very big pay jumps, and it's a pretty standard jump up, really. It's like all your money's in the top 3 spots, really, and a pretty steady increase. I know that when you guys were commentating the 2K final table the other day, there was a very odd increase, like from 10th to 9th and 9th to 8th. It was really odd because there was a really big jump from 9th to 8th and a really small jump from 10th to 9th, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But we've got a kind of a steady increase: 14, 25, 38, 51, 64, 91, 124, 163, 225. So it's a pretty steady increase, and Stars have done a lot of work on their tournament structure, tournament payout structures over the last 2 years, or maybe even 5 years if we want to go back a while. And their structures are generally flattish in comparison to something like Party Poker, who have extraordinarily steep payout structures.
Okay. I'd like to just take a little bit of a moment and kind of, what's it, not crowdsource. Yeah, I think it's called crowdsource. Crowdsource our chat. If you guys want to do Marco a favor, usually I do this just before we go live, and I really haven't had that much time to do it today. See if you can come up with these guys' Twitters, because when you said Go Leafs, when I read the name Go Leafs Go Away, I know that guy's on Twitter. I think I follow him, in fact, and this Big Hooney fellow, whom you make out to be, kind of a baller. I wouldn't be surprised if he had some Twitter following as well. So if you guys in chat want to give Marco a hand and look those up, see if you can find them, look them up by their screen names, see if their screen names, if based on their screen names you can detect their real names and see if there's a Twitter for that. You'd be helping me out a good deal. And once you have those down, put them in, submit them in chat, and I will be thankful. And I'll give you shout-outs. And Matt will give you shout-outs. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. Now, I don't want to take away too much from the action here, Matt, which we have not yet called at all. But tell me a little bit, while everyone's kind of warming up to being at this final table. What has your 2012 W Coop been like so far?
To be honest, Marco, it's been horrible. It's just been followed on from a really horrible year, actually. I've said a few times, you might not want to take anything, any advice from me, because I'm probably the biggest losing player in online MTTs this year, if not very close, I would say. It's just been one of those years. It's one of my friends that I was talking to earlier said something to me which was along the lines of, MTTs are brutal in the sense that one day you can feel like, you're on top of the world, and nobody can beat you, and the next day you feel like a complete retard. And I've basically felt like a complete retard for the entire 9 months of the year so far. So it hasn't been a good year. It hasn't been a good W Coop. But I'm still grinding, and I'm still hopeful that one day it will turn around. And just trying to keep my head screwed on and keep doing what I do, which is all that you can.
Well, listen, I'm sorry to hear that it hasn't been going your way for so long, but I'm very confident that you'll come back from it. In fact, you know what's funny, Matt? If I can just share a little bit of an anecdote, I guess, with you. And this just goes to show you what an idiot in poker I can be sometimes. For a long time, for many months, I actually had no idea how big of a baller you were in online poker, or how successful and noted you were. Well, it's true, because at one point, in fact, not even too long of a time ago, were you not ranked #1 in Australia on Pocket Fives?
That's true. That was yes, that was true. There's certainly flaws in the system, though. Would be my argument as well, is that it's a very volume-driven system, as opposed to a results-driven system, to a certain degree. So yeah, I don't put too much weight into that either.
Well, I did, and you're not going to talk me out of it. But no, it's just funny because I think you were a listener from the Black Friday days when we were doing that big show. A lot of Australians. Oh, you were? Okay. Oh, you were. I'm sorry. I thought you said you weren't.
I was. Yeah,
and it's kind of funny to continue this this spree of honesty, MJW. For whatever reason, at first, I thought you were kind of a troll. I think you had done something or said something that annoyed me, and maybe back then I was just too naive to comprehend it or appreciate it. Kind of like Chu. Boy, Chu, I don't even remember what Chu did in the beginning. Look, one of the first things Chu did, he pissed me off so much. And again, I swear to God, I cannot for the life of me remember what he did or said. But yeah,
I do remember some angst towards Chu early on, but he certainly does that to people straight up. That's one of the first things that you're going to get from him. Mm-hmm. That's for sure. So, and I think, yeah, and I think I didn't think you were as bad, but there was something about you. I don't know. And then after that, I just kind of thought, well, he's not a troll, he's okay. But I thought you were kind of more like a fanboy. We had a lot of just fans, who used to listen a lot, and especially from Australia. And I thought MJW was one of those guys. It wasn't until Convict Corner began that I realized just how good you were. Zach was I was talking about it to Zach for some reason, and he's the one who pointed it out. He said, he's ranked #1 in Australia right now in Pocket Fives, right? And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And he's doing a show with us, Awesome. So, yeah. Marco.
Well, listen, I just wanted to share that with you. So in case in the past, if I've ever been, I probably became a huge suck-up around that time, Matt, which you may have noticed in our correspondence. So if at any point...
No. Okay. You were always pleasant.
Oh, yes, actually, I was, wasn't I?
Yeah, you were.
But anyway, I just thought I would share that with you. And again, I've been a fan. Even before that, I've been a fan. I liked your manner, and I so far you've already impressed me with your very meticulous way of analyzing this table, of looking at everything from seat positions and stack sizes and all the rest.
Actually, Marco, I've been very impressed with... I mean, I don't want to turn this into... We probably should start talking about what's going on at the table, but listening... I was actually very surprised that you started talking in BBs, and that wasn't something that I expected coming from you. So you've come a long way this W Coop, Marco.
Well, thank you. I like to think that I have. I try to, I think, it's easy when you don't have to worry about making any pretense of expertise, Yes. I know I am not an online poker player. I don't pretend to be a poker player at all. I think I'm kind of an anomaly. in poker media in that respect. I'm
Yep.
completely fine admitting, like, listen, I never play poker. What little poker I may have played before I got into poker media so much was certainly not enough to qualify me as any kind of commentator. I'm just, I'd rather be a dummy, and even as a dummy, I even dummies, I guess, can suffer some some timidity, I guess you could say, in formulating some questions. But I don't care. I don't care at all. If I'm curious about a poker hand, I'm going to ask. I'm going to try to learn, and I'm going to be completely humble about it. And
And that will be the easiest way for us to go forward as well, because questions are probably the easiest way to to deal with discussing hands and things like that. So if you want to know anything, fire away.
mhm.
And I guess we should start following the action. I've been briefly trying to catch up on what's going on, and it does seem like Big Hooney is opening a lot of pots at this point in time.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, just pardon me. Some of this stuff here is falling apart, so I feel like I'm one of those scientists who's got all these beakers and gases and concoctions in his lab, and he's got to attend to one combustion after another. So here we go. Okay. Yeah. All right. So Big Hooney is, he might as well be typing it in chat. Like, listen, guys, I'm Big Hooney. Let's, if you guys want to, make some sort of pact, we can, if everyone gets into a line, we can make this much easier on everybody. Okay.
Right. Essentially, I mean, even though he's been the dominant force for the final two tables, and I dare say for some time before that as well. He definitely called Link C99 in a massive pot. He had kings over ace king on like a king XXX ace board, so he flopped a set against a river 2 pair. That was for a massive pot at that point in time, and he also had like king 6 on a 7-6-8 jack 6 board as well. So it's not like he hasn't made hands as well, because that's really important. That if you're going to take the path that he's taking, which is to be super aggressive and play a bunch of pots, the reason generally for that is that you expect people to be a lot more timid given the current situation. So their hand ranges, in effect, are actually going to be tighter. So range on range, you're going to actually have to make some hands at some point in time in order to actually get those big chip jumps rather than the steady accumulation. So eventually, when the big pots come up, it's always handy, and it's been very convenient for him to have good hands in those spots as well.
Okay.
So he certainly, I guess it kind of goes back to one of the things I said before, which is like in poker in general, you can go periods where you feel like you're unbeatable and other periods where you feel like a complete retard. There's a lot of underlying forms of variance in terms of like hand-on-hand matchups and things like that, which actually, people don't think about as much, because when people think variance, they think, oh, I lost a flip, or I lost 10 flips, or I lost, ace king to ace queen. So they think about those big all-in pre-flop confrontations when, there's so much underlying variance in terms of like you having like this board here, we've got a king 10-4 3 diamond board. You flatting out of the big blind and flopping a flush with say 8-9 of diamonds and running into like top set of kings. So like hands like that where you just get like set up coolers and stuff like that in your favor. And there's also things where on certain board textures, which I'm sure you've learned a bit about with like your drier and your wetter board textures, and the frequency in which people are connecting with those boards. There'll be some days where you just like get check raised all the time, and it feels like you're just getting owned by everyone. But in reality, people are just like hitting the boards more often against you, and these are the things that people don't see as variance, but in reality they are variance. So you certainly need those things to go your way at a final table like this. It's not just winning all ins and stuff. Situationally, you have to run decently as well. If that all makes sense.
Absolutely, it does. Matt, if you could give us a quick primer on leveling, I think. I'm too awesome in chat. I think you can see this question as well. He says, can someone please explain why someone would fold a 5 or 6 bet instead of just flatting and seeing a flop at that point?
So he's saying, why would you put in the 5th or the 6th bet instead of flatting?
I think he's saying, why would you fold, actually? Like, once once the raising wars get that high, what is it? At what point do you make the decision to fold rather than take a stab with the flop? If you could quickly synthesize that thought.
It can be a mistake to be folding depending on the size. Like, a lot has to do with the sizing, so it's very hard without a particular example because so much is going to revolve around the sizing and stack depths. So you don't really once you get to the 5th and 6th bets, you're generally talking about very big raises going in. Mm-hmm. So even if you're getting, say, like ridiculously good odds on your money, the stack to pot ratio at that point in time may be such that there will be no post-flop play. So if you have a hand, so say you 5-bet with a hand like ace-2 suited. Maybe that's not the best example. Say you 5-bet with a hand like queen-6 suited, for example, or queen-4 suited or something like that. Something pretty trashy, something that could definitely be in a 5-bet bluff range. Then there's no real point to peeling a flop if the stack to pot ratio is going to be ridiculously low. So that means that the pot will be so big that your stack may even be less than a pot size bet. Mm-hmm. Because you're becoming purely flop dependent, and even when you do flop, say you flop like a 6 or something like that, you may feel obligated to get it in at that point in time when his range at that point, the reason why you 5-bet in the first place straight up is that you define his range really well because you don't think that he's going to 6-bet wide at all. So when he puts in a 6-bet, you just essentially feel like you're crushed against his range, so there's no point continuing.
Very well put.
So it's kind of about range definition and also to do with stacks a little bit more.
Very good.
Does that make sense?
It does to me. I think I'm Too Awesome gets it as well. I'm Too Awesome. Say thank you, Matt. You're the best. There you go. Thank you! Exclamation mark. Got it.
I guess at the end of the day, you should always have a plan when you're going to do something. So if you're going to 5-bet a spot as a bluff, purely as a bluff, it should be because you think you get folds enough of the time. It shouldn't really be to 5-bet to flat with a random 2-card hand. It should be a 5-bet with intentions of getting tons of folds. That's why you think it's plus EV. And if the 6th bet goes in, you define his range really well. So you shouldn't really be 5-bet, especially in MTTs where stacks are never really that deep. You really shouldn't be 5-betting with intentions of flatting. You should be 5-betting with intentions of 5-bet going or 5-bet folding. So
I see. By the way, I just put that's excellent, actually, Matt. Very eloquent. I can tell this is going to be a very good final table, and the listeners are very pleased. And so follow Matt. Make sure to follow him on Twitter if you don't already at MGW006. And as usual, Matt, as I often do, whenever I recommend that our chatters follow somebody, I like to encourage that person to tweet favorably, to tweet satisfactorily. If you can, I think you're pretty good at Twitter, aren't you, Matt?
I've been tweeting some hands even lately. I've been using the new Boom replayer thing to tweet some hands out there and get some thoughts out into the Twitterverse. So yes, I've certainly toned it down a little bit. But yes, I do tweet on a semi-regular basis.
Good, and thus people are invited to follow you. What is that like? That boom. I mean, I've seen the boom player. I see a lot of people tweet their hands. You know, some are more interesting than others, to be quite honest. But it's still it's a very good system. It seems. Is it new? I mean, I've only recently begun to see it. I think it's new.
Relatively new, yeah.
Relatively
Uh, yeah, it's good. I certainly enjoy like some of the people I follow, like because a lot of the people I follow are players I consider to be a lot better than myself. And seeing how they're playing certain hands is always useful. So it's kind of like a free resource to a certain extent.
hmm Very good. Yeah, and so do people interact well with that? Because it looks like something that was meant to be, or primarily meant to live on Twitter and on social media and stuff. Do people interact well with that?
I believe so. To be honest with you, Marco, I haven't had a bunch of experience with it. I've just kind of only just started trying it out and posting some hands up there and watching some hands on there. So I'm still kind of working my way around it.
Okay. All right. All in by Ziduart, who takes down the blinds. By the way, thanks guys for providing some of this, some of these Twitter handles. I got 3 of them right now. I got 4 of them, actually 4, but one, the Andres one, is useless. You say he has 0 followers, which is unlikely for an Eastern European dictator like that. Usually,
So
they
we
have a
have
lot
an
of
all-in
adoring
here.
fans. Yeah, we have an all in and a call.
And a call. I expected M3 to be strong there almost always. And it was just unfortunate, I guess.
Mhm.
That was a pretty standard situation played by all players involved, really. Anders flattered 2 10s versus an undergun raise while he was under the gun +1. He basically has 2 options there. He can flat or he can 3-bet really small. The problem with 3-betting really small against this under the gun open is that when you get 4-bet, you put yourself in a really tricky spot in the sense that, you know, sometimes you're turning your hand into a bluff, essentially.
Mhm.
I haven't watched close enough to understand Alex KP's frequencies under the gun, or early position for that matter. So the flat with 10s, it can certainly be standard, and then obviously he calls off against the jam, and there's not much M3 DYY can do, but jam there with a 17 big blind stack and ace queen.
Nice. What do we have going on in this hand? Your boy is in it.
I haven't watched it closely. I assume that Huni opened the button. What's the stack size, pot size here? I don't know what happened. I'm not very good at following this, Marco.
I think you're just fine. You know, it doesn't seem to be. They don't seem to be going at it very intensely. I mean, there was some action on the flop, but they checked the turn and the river. What do you make of that? Mukari had a pair of 10s, which, you know, there was an overcard on the flop and then another one on the turn. But it went check, check, check. Do you think Mukari might have played it a little bit more aggressively against anyone other than Big Huni?
Yes. Now, it's interesting because he actually flattered them from the small blind preflop. With the reason being that with 2 10s, he doesn't really, they're 90 big blinds effective. So Huni opens the button for a min raise for 40,000 and he flats 2 10s in the small blind. Now, again, had it been anyone else on the button, he may be happy to 3-bet to 5-bet, get it in, or 3-bet and be happy to flat the 4-bet and play a big pop. However, against Huni, because of the ICM considerations, he elected to flat the 2 10s and got an ace-8 4 flop in which he just check called, which is standard. He's certainly not folding. Huni's range is really wide for opening the button, and he's c-betting his entire range on an ace-8 4 2-diamond flop. The turn was a king, and to be perfectly honest with you, it was that's a really good barrel card for Huni. It's a really good card for him to apply a ton of pressure to Mukari as well. And what he would do was he would force Mukari to be folding a lot of those medium strength hands. It's very hard for Mukari to have a hand like Ace King and not be 3-betting it. It's also very hard for him to have aces or kings. Given that his 3-bet value range will be quite narrow, I do expect those hands to still be in it. So it's actually a really good barrel card for Huni, given that Mukari's range is somewhat capped. And Huni obviously can have a vast array of hands. So it's actually a really good card for Huni to bet
Sorry
three
if
strings.
I appear to...
Ever made love on a couch? Well, let me ask you this. Have you ever made love on the back seat of a car? I remember one time I made love on the back seat of a car, and the police came and shined his light on me, and I said, I'm stroking. That's what I'm doing. I be stroking.
I be stroking indeed. Every time I listen to that song...
So we have an all-in and a call.
Ace Queen versus King 8. Ace Queen in the lead, and Z Duarte hits that king.
Does.
So we're still down to 8. I was going to say that every time I listen to that song, I feel like...
Quite a big pile.
A big pile of what?
Quite a big... Oh no, that's fine, it's standard. Sorry, I thought it was bigger than it was. Yeah, it was 17 big blinds on the button with King 8 suited, so... yeah. It's definitely plus EV.
Okay. So, we have lost one person since we started streaming this final table. And Big Huni still in the lead, although Mukari 6 is closing in on him. Now, Big Huni, Matt Wakeman, who happens to be our commentator this evening. Hello, Matt. As he tells us, Big Huni is quite the favorite here in terms of ability, I want to say, and perceived ability.
Yes.
Perceived and tested. But what can you tell us about Mukari 6?
Not a lot, to be honest, Marco. I really don't know. He's one of the players that I didn't actually have a note on. I have all of the regulars that I play against. Either I have notes on them, or I have them tagged in a certain color scheme, which is based on how I perceive them. And Mukari was one that I see around a lot that I don't actually have a color to. That's probably because I have no opinion of him, yet I'm very familiar with his name. So I really can't tell you too much about him, but he seems to be playing quite snug at the moment at this final table, which is probably the correct strategy up until this point in time.
Got it. Yeah. I think Big Huni used to have a pretty big lead over everyone else at the table, and now Mukari is catching up to him. So is this Voita R. Wouldn't you say? Maybe.
Yeah, well, Big Huni, remember, just lost the Ace Queen to the King 8 suited for 17
true.
big blinds. So that was quite a big hit. That was a 500,000 or 450,000 hit out of his stack just a moment ago. So that certainly damaged his stack, but he's still the chip leader after taking such a hit. So
now, why does it look like this panel is suddenly being flooded by contributors?
Because it may very well be.
Is Random Chew with us? It sounds like this is a seance. Random Chew, are you with us? Is the spirit of Random Chew with us?
Probably just in spirit.
Okay. Probably just in spirit. Well, what about Ryan? What about Potential? We were just talking about him earlier.
Hey guys, how's it going? Just
Ryan, welcome back to QuadJacks TV. Ryan, you just can't stay away, can you?
No, I like you guys too much. What can I say? You're addicted.
It is a fun program, isn't it?
Ryan, the correct word is love.
True.
I have to say,
I love you guys too much. I love you guys too much.
Well, the feeling is mutual, Ryan. I have to say, I'm quite happy to see the two of you together. I was just saying earlier how Ryan might be the guy we've had on the air the most, but MJW seems like he's been there as often, even though he's never been there. But that's because he's in chat all the time. So you guys probably even had you guys probably even had a good correspondence and an inter-chat correspondence. So, what's up, guys? Ryan meet Matt, Matt meet Ryan, and yeah.
I think we've played each other enough to know each other fairly well, at least. I'd like to feel that.
Ryan's actually one of the only commentator that I've agreed with for pretty much everything that he said the whole time. There's certainly been some things I've disagreed with that have been said over the course of Quadjacks TV. Not to say that it's necessarily my opinion's correct, but I've basically agreed with everything Ryan said. So good that I don't have to disagree with someone on here.
Awesome.
Well, feels pretty good to know that. I consider you a very, very good player. So the fact that you agree with me makes me feel a little bit better.
Hey, I wish you guys would read your notes on the other player to each other, like vows.
I have potential. I don't have any notes. Hang on, I've got them free though. I might have a note. Hang on, let me check. No.
So Prot, no, nothing. Potential. Any notes on MGW?
He's just got my.
I probably have a marked. I probably have a marked yellow for me, which is considered to be decent, which means I think that around me in skill might be better, might be worse, but I do think that they're a very, very competent player. And then,
God damn it, that's the exact same color scheme as me. I have you in
orange
yellow.
And then my orange are for sickos, which is at this table I have two marked, the obvious two being Big Honey and Mike Go Leafs Go A Lee.
Okay, so wait, go ahead.
I have Huni in green, which is my sicko note, and Vegeta, Alex KP, Elmerix, and Go Leafs Go in yellow, which is exactly the same as Ryan's.
Yeah.
And then my orange note is just for my random notes that I have on people. And then my light blue is marginal shitty regs, and my blue is dark blue is fish.
Ryan's system
green is fish.
Yeah, I was going to say, Ryan, your system resembles more the Terror Alert system, I think, in this
country.
country.
Yeah, pretty much. The green, dark blue, light blue, yellow, orange.
I see.
And then I have pink as friend.
Pink as friend? Ah, that's nice.
I have pink as must slow roll at all costs, and the only person I have with that is Random Chew. So,
wow. Wow. So listen, Prot, if I may call you that. You tell us. Prot works, right? What have you made of this final table tour? I've been listening to MGW give his own assessments.
I haven't really been paying that much attention, to be honest. The few hands I did see were very, very, very standard. The tens versus ace queen. Yeah, I haven't really seen all that much, to be honest. I haven't really been following the flow or anything like that.
Oh wow! Well, welcome, Prots. I think you're gonna do just fine catching up. Matt, if you had to welcome someone like Potential to this panel right now, which you actually do have to do. How would you describe the table in 1 minute? If we put the clock on you in 60 seconds, how would you catch him up on everything he needed to know about this final table but was afraid to ask?
I know that I don't have to describe the stack setup to him because he only has to take one look at that. So essentially, Big Hooney's been opening the majority of pots. Mukari's been playing quite snug, obviously, being on Big Hooney's left, although he has opened when Big Hooney's let it go. Zaduart actually open jammed 17 big blinds with King 8 suited just after the break a moment ago. Elmerix has been ninjaing on the short stack. Alex KP has been willing to play pots seemingly, and probably been the second most active. Vegeta R as well has also, a moment ago, I noticed he 3-bet Elmerix off a very short stack, which was a pretty decent spot, 3-betting to four big blinds. And Mike Golis goes pretty much played in a similar way to what I anticipated, which is he's been pretty snug, and his stack kind of dictates that as well at the moment. So
Yeah.
Very
So
good.
it sounds like it should be a fairly straightforward final table. I'd really like to see Mike Lee get some chips and have like a Voda, a Big Honey, Mike Leafs, and like Alex KP Final Four. I think that'd make for a really interesting Final Four.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
So how's your W Coup been going?
Oh, don't bring that up, potential.
Probably worse than yours.
His has been going that bad? Oh, really?
Yeah, Matt's
Oh,
on
that's
a ledge.
brutal. Yeah, W Coup can do that. I feel like that too. Although my day-to-day definitely fixed that. I think nothing beats parasailing and jet skiing, so I'm recharged for the main event. Recharged.
Days off are a good refresher. I'll take one on Saturday our time. So I think I'm
You're
going to
sailing on your off time, potential?
Huh?
Did you say you're sailing on your off time? Did I understand you correctly?
No, I went parasailing. That's where you like,
Parasailing?
there's like like a chute. A boat pulls you, and you go up in the air, like 100, 200 feet up. It's really fun.
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, that sounds like, that always looked like fun.
Yeah, it was really scary, but a really cool rush too. It was very interesting. Definitely makes my 21st in event 48 feel a little bit better. Not gonna lie, still painful, but I'm ready for grinding tomorrow now, and excited for the last few days of W Coup. Are you playing the 500 tomorrow, Matt?
I imagine so. It depends on how much sleep I get and how I feel at that time. Because I'll play the 320, and then I will decide a bit later. But I imagine I'll be playing it, yeah.
Cool. Well, then hopefully we can go into that, since we seem to both be really too.
Just keep flicking the money in. Keep flicking it in there. You had a couple of runs, though, yeah, so far in W Coup?
Yeah, I've had 21st yesterday. I've had like a couple top 100s, a couple other top 100s as well. I mean, so I had like 3 to 4 top 100s, with 21st being my deepest run.
Okay.
So just some somewhat close calls. Looks like a somewhat interesting pot going multi-way. See if we missed anything interesting while I've been distracting you guys. No, it seems to be a lot of raise and take.
There was a lot of
Yeah.
raising before the flop, you say?
Oh, no, just a min raise and a call. 2 calls.
There was a
Sorry
multi-way
if I'm,
pot as well.
Yeah.
Zidua actually took down a pretty decent sized pot in a three-way pot.
A few hands before that, I saw that too. Some looked like it was decent sized.
Yeah, I got 3 calls on the flop. So on a Jack 9-3 flop, and then he donk led the turn, king turn. Okay, got a big check raise. Oh, a check raise.
Yeah, pretty small check raise. It doesn't really surprise me that Voda did not see about this board. I mean, both villains are very likely to have kings in their range, and they're also both very likely to have like suited connectors. So flush draws and whatever. So he's not very likely to win the pot multi-way.
Yeah, if you change that 8 to a heart on the flop, though, I think it's a good flop to see bet, given that Andre's flick-in range from the big blind should be really wide, given that the odds that he was getting against him in raise, and Mukari can obviously have a lot of suited connectors, pocket pairs, so it would be a better flop to see bet, obviously.
Yep. The drier the flop, the better the c-bet there. The reason why I was saying that is one of the things that coaches like to teach micro players is they're starting to play a lot more is c-betting a really high percent. So that's why you might see regulars check in certain types of board and why. This hand seems to be going fairly interesting with the check raise bet turn. I wouldn't surprise me if either one of these guys. How big did he make it on the turn?
He made it 280. He made it 284, which set up a pot-sized river jam. Which was what the interesting part about it was that he actually thought about it and then bet, which set up a river jam. I'm really surprised that he didn't jam the river there. Actually,
that river card is a pretty meh one. I mean, Mukari's calling range, betting and calling range generally tends to be either like king queen, maybe king jack, ace king, chop chop, like king queen, king jack, maybe king 10, and then of course all flush draws. So it seems to me that if Andres, like, I would expect him to bet the river and fold to a shove, but like I'm not surprised that he checked it, and I'm not surprised that Mukari checked behind either. Like, I would think that I guess maybe he even does have to check. I mean, it's not like king queen now is calling off versus a club river. I guess maybe if the river was like a 7 of diamonds or whatever, he could probably bet call river.
I still think he needs to bet for value on that river.
We have an all-in call, tens versus... and here we go. Big Huni makes the 2 pair, but Elmerix finds a diamond, finds a 4 flush, and has the only diamond. Then he will double up. He was actually on the...
Oh, it's the 6 sweat.
Yes. I was just going to point out that, Elmerix was on the short stack. He really needed help. With that double up, it is Alex KP who moves to the short stack. He's got about 20 bigs, I'd say, but that's about to change. The blinds are about to go up in just about a minute, which will put Alex KP actually just underneath 20 bigs. Potential. Matt is impressed when I talk about big blinds, so I'm trying to talk about big blinds as much as I can tonight. But sorry, guys, back to you.
I think discussing how deep people are effective is something that, like, a lot of TV commentators need to do a lot more, because I think that the average skill level of players has been going up immensely since, say, 2004. So having your basic, he has this many chips, like, kind of commentary doesn't really do it enough justice. Saying, he has 30 big blinds behind, he started the hand with 30 big blinds, or so on and so forth, I think is really important to discuss, as it, encompasses pretty much all the decisions you have to make especially at a final table.
I agree. Just one last thing on that, the King 8 hand potential. Ryan potential. I
Either
really
one,
think
Prot, Ryan, don't really care.
I think if his plan was to jam non-club rivers, I think he still has to have a plan to bet like 1/3 of the pot, or maybe anywhere from like 25 to 35% of the pot on that river, because it's not like Mukari is going... I don't expect Mukari on this final table to ever turn like King Queen into a bluff there, but I do expect him to call almost always when you bet that sizing, because he's getting...
even when the river's like a terrible river card.
Well, I don't think it's that terrible, especially if you bet like that sizing as well, because I think that he expects you to pile your flush draws if you've played them that way anyway. I do think though that he can check raise bigger on the flop 3 ways. I think that
I really thought that he should have check raised a lot bigger on the flop. Like, he should have made it like 210 or something like that.
Yeah.
And then he can like really bash the turn, like send you an all-in and a call and a suck out. No resuck? No resuck. And SKP gets that double up.
Which he also needed. And now it's, I think it's it's Go Leafs Go It's Mike. Who's
now
the
short
short stack. Yeah.
And I expect Mike to be able to play this stack really, really well as well. So, like, you don't expect... I mean, it's silly to say, but you don't expect him to make any mistakes. So it's almost... even though he would be not loving being in that position, it's not exactly a situation that he would be unfamiliar with. So I don't expect him to make any mistakes at all from this stack.
Yeah, I would expect him to play it, maybe not perfectly, but very, very well. I mean, he's a very, very good player, and any time I have 15 big blinds, I'm not stressing it at all, no matter where I'm at, just because it's pretty easy to play.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see, for sure. Fold it to Alex KP, who min raises it on the button. Andres considers, strokes his mustache a little bit.
I mean, this is a good spot for a 3-bet with a really, really wide range of hands.
Do you think so?
Especially as a big stack, yeah.
And here we go.
The only issue with it is if we expect Elmerix to be a very good player, which I have a mark as being competent, but
Yeah, me
no
too.
more than that. Like that's like a perfect 4-bet rip for him, especially with how deep he is. Like he can just rip anything that has equity, and it'll get through a lot and just make him a lot of money at this final tip.
Yeah, I mean, then it just comes down to the balls factor, doesn't it? Like, I love just putting people in spots where they have to put their chips in. So, I mean, I still love that 3-bet spot just for the fact that, you know, if it's Big Hooney on that stack to your left, then you know that he's going to rip a lot. But with, I don't know a ton about Elmerix, and like with the regs that are kind of in that kind of category, I just want to kind of see if they are prepared to rip that spot or not.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy to. I think and I like this sizing as well because it put Alex KP in kind of awkward stack size as well. He couldn't really rip on him. Like he's slightly too deep as well. So
Zeduart makes a raise.
Zeduart he's probably going to be polarized. He's just going to have like garbage or nut hands that he's very comfortable calling.
Yep.
He's either just snap folding or snap calling.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming he's decent, which I don't know if he is or isn't. I really have no idea as to who he is.
yeah, me either. He's only got my my note.
Well, if he's a good player, he should be polarized there. You could even be polarized there, like as short as like 14 bigs, 13 bigs. And then a lot of times, like even if people know that you're shoving a certain range, it doesn't even matter. It's, all the hands that you're doing it with, it's unexploitable to do it with. You could, like in a lot of the spots, you could show them. You could be like, "Hey, look, I have ace 2 soft suit," and you're still making money. I love little spots like that. The little mathematical simplicities about poker. Just because with the game being so complex, it's nice to have some things that you can be like, I'm 100% certain that this is correct.
Indeed.
Another 3-way pot. That's 2 now, actually.
So the Makari raised and Andres flat, and then Andres led the flop. And he led it pretty small, too. He led it for under half, it looked like.
Yeah, it appears that way. I don't have like the continuing action flowing in my chat box.
Mm-hmm.
Tilts me.
I would say he's probably leaning towards like combo draws or bear draws. So I have like 10 jack, like here, especially calling and raised. Could even have like queen jack. I guess he could have flopped nuts and was trying to do.
That's what I was gonna say. I think he's actually quite strong.
10.
Yeah.
I don't think he flopped a set unless he was trying to induce a flop raise, and then turn he just like had the nuts so didn't care.
He can also have 2 jacks here for sure.
Wow, big honey check call
honey.
flop with that. I really, really, really dislike that check call on the flop. I really
You
hate
just-
it.
You dislike it? Yeah.
Big Hooney flopped the straight, the nut straight, I believe, and check called it, you say, on the flop, and then folded it
Yeah,
by the
which I
river.
think is like I think check calling flop here is terrible. Like I think it's really 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 bad. Like yeah, Andre is going to know that our check raising range like is generally going to be hands like Jack 10, 9, Jack suited, 7, 8, and then like 10x of diamonds, like 7x of diamonds, Jack x of diamonds, like Queen x of diamonds, like just all the really good diamonds, all the really good draws, two pairs and stuff. But like if Andre has like a set of 8s or a set of 9s or a set of 10s or like even 9, 10, it's very unlikely that he's folding on like all turns that like aren't at the absolute worst for those hands. So if we check raise it, like I would check raise it to like say 275,000 here, maybe even a little bigger than that, which we can mash turn, and then when the river when turn and river break out, we can ship river for value, and he'll just like, snap us off of the set or two pair. I think check calling like doesn't like allows him to get to the river really cheaply, and also allows him to lose the minimum when he has value hands, and I don't think he's ever late there.
I certainly agree with that analysis for that line. I also don't think that leading is that bad an option there as well, given his flat range should connect with that board at a relatively high frequency. So by leading that board and leading it kind of biggish on the like 140 side of things, you actually give yourself a really good opportunity to get it in on the flop because he will raise his sets and stuff on that board. So if you lead
Right.
for 140 and get raised, you can, depending on his sizing, you can basically like 3-bet get it in and it be
Yep.
going all in on the flop. Secondly, given that he has a lot of hands that connect with that board, if he did have a hand like Jack 9 suited, for example, you prevent him from checking back, because if you check the flop and it goes check, 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 like with a hand like Jack 9 suited, he may just check back that flop in a three-way
Yep.
pot. So you prevent him from being able to do that, so you pick up extra chips and give yourself the opportunity to get 3 streets. Even a hand like King Jack, which is definitely in his flat range as well, you don't really want to give that hand the opportunity to check the flop back. So you actually you give yourself the best opportunity to get value out of those types of more marginal hands as well, by leading. But I definitely agree with everything you said about check raising if you do elect to check.
Yeah, I actually think that leading is probably going to be better there for all the reasons that you stated. But like, I would generally say it's going to be like player dependent versus Mukari and Andres.
Yeah.
But I think probably leading for a bit over half or check raising, like both of those are going to be very, very, very good plays. And check calling is just like a train wreck. I really have no idea as to why he check called.
It's
Like I know why
also-
he check called turn. Like check calling turn is probably better than like check raising it. But
Oh, absolutely, yeah, for sure.
like I just can't see a check calling the flop.
May I intervene with a question?
You may,
Is there
Mark.
any benefit? Thanks. Is there any benefit to showing at the end there?
No.
No, I really disliked that too. Although I
Other
guess
than
it
for us.
might. Well, I guess it might make people think that when he does like check raise, that he's more draw and air weighted, not nut weighted. But I guess that's like the one saving face is that you turn a really big mistake into at least giving people false information.
I don't know. It seemed to be driven more by frustration,
Yeah,
disappointment.
yeah,
I mean,
his was motivated for the wrong reasons. Like, you should only really show hands if you're certain that you giving up that information will help you at over the short term that you're going to be at that table, or the long run. Like, I'll show hands for certain regs just so they think like I'm really spewy and spazzing in spots, and then they'll just like tool out versus me in like the craziest situations.
yeah. Curious decision there at the end by your boy Big Hooney, Matt. I think you're going to have to answer for it now.
Yeah, I don't like showing at all. I basically never. I don't ever show my cards unless like I'm absolutely sure that like Ryan was saying that it will tilt someone in a certain spot, and I think that they'll lose their mind basically. Like if it's like a ridiculous bluff spot, and I think that they'll lose their mind as a result of it, then I will show my cards. But other than that, like I just don't show them because I don't really see any point to doing so. So, and I don't like showing in that spot in particular because, like what Ryan said, might be a decent argument, but you still have to get those spots come up to take advantage of it. So you're doing something
which
now.
is going to be rare.
Yeah, and like the chances that you actually get that situation come up on this final table later, where that will benefit you, is like really low. So. So Zidua doesn't seem to be afraid to play pots, even given his like relatively short stack depth. Is one thing that I've picked up. He's certainly not afraid to move the chips around and get in there.
When this... okay, no. I'm sorry.
On the last few orbits, he's only played a few hands. And the one that we did see, he ended up having queen. So I think he probably just like carved a little bit, like had a perfect hand. Like earlier when he was playing more hands, he had like 1.1 million. Now that he lost his queen ace x, he's probably tightened down a bit. So only he's going to have like really good opening hands, like queen jack. Although I don't mind his open. I think with our stack size, it probably looks really strong. So I'd probably use like those kinds of hands that are close to shoves as an open.
Agree.
Do you guys want to hear quickly a bit of a funny story?
Sure,
Yeah, of course.
Marco.
Ryan, or MJW even for that matter, you remember when we, a couple of nights ago, we were calling the action, Casey Jarzabeg and Mark Aliotto were there,
Yep.
Ruthless was at the table, and then he came on for a little bit. Remember that?
Yeah.
And Heads Up turned out to be this one pro DJK versus this guy named Oyerkhan, who was like, everyone agreed that he was like mysteriously awful for someone who had made it that far, right? And the commentators we had on were pretty candid in their estimation of Oyerkhan, and Ruthless was among them. And he sent me a tweet the other day. He says, "So, Oyerkhan was not pleased with the broadcast. He asked me to tell you. Quote, they are all just big heads. End quote. When I saw him at the table." So I just wanted to bring that up to just kind of illustrate the point that, whoever you talk about tonight, especially unfavorably, may be listening, They may think they may charge us with being big heads later.
I actually had Oyerkhan on one of my tables the other day. I didn't think he was that bad.
No?
I didn't actually pay that much attention to the final table or whatever, but I think I even had a note on him. I might have been deep in the Sunday 500 on Monday. I can't remember. I think it was him. Yeah. I just know that he wasn't afraid to move the chips around either. Like he was very happy to kind of like get it in. So.
Well,
Not really surprising from what I saw in that final table.
Yeah, I actually didn't pay that much attention, so I can't really comment, I guess. I'm not going to question your opinion, though, Ryan. He could have definitely been retarded. If you say so, I trust your opinion. All right, so Mike,
go.
I didn't think
This is
I didn't watch enough of it to say whether he was like very bad or not. I just what I did was I seemed to be pretty aggro. I'm pretty happy to move chips to say.
Here we go. Here's a re-raise by Big Hooney. This
Really
could be
dislike
the double up. That,
Big Hooney shove. There's like
Big
no
Hooney shove,
hand
that's
he
right.
should be shoving there. Yeah, he really should not be shoving even. And GG Mike Lee in 8th place for 25K.
So that worked out for Big Hooney, but why don't you think you should have shoved there, Ryan? This is the second questionable act which we saw from Big Hooney.
Well, when he snap shoves there, he's essentially saying that he has like tens through queens like always, and ace king, and I think pretty much everyone behind him is going to realize exactly what his range is. Like he never has kings or aces there, so like if Andre has like queens plus, like he's always just snapping it in. Like essentially when Big Honey ISOs queens, like he's only ever getting called by better by someone behind. Now when he flats a shove, he allows someone to make a big mistake, and he also allows himself to fold if like Mukari shoves and then Andre's, the mustache. If it goes like shove behind, like queens are like an insta snap fold. So I really dislike that snap shove. It's going to be plus EV, but I don't think it's close to optimal.
Brilliantly put. See, I would have never thought of that. Well done, Ryan. Do you agree, MJW?
I do. I know that. I'm not even in love with Mike Lear's jam, even though I know that this, like, I just think I made a similar jam at a final table the other day, and like, I know he's only got 10 big blinds and stuff, but like, at a final table, it's slightly different to a non-final table situation. So I think it's close. Like, I think it's probably plus CEV, but I don't know if it's necessarily. And like, I know that being the short stack, he doesn't have to worry about ICM as much. What do you think, Ryan? Like, I don't know. I thought it was pretty close.
I think his shove is fine only because of how short he is in relative to everyone else. Like, yeah. I think like because of that, he virtually has 0 ICM. And the thing is even if this table was 10-handed and he was under the gun, it's still a shove. So like it's solidly enough of shove that we're supposed to do it, in my opinion. It's still like really close. Like I'm not shoving anything worse than that.
Yeah, it's definitely the bottom. Like I was gonna say, like King 10 suited was probably the bottom of my range in that exact spot. But yeah, I thought it was really close.
And I think what's also important to add is that we're going to get ISO'd a lot tighter here.
Well, here's Ace King versus Ace Jack. Now, you know what? And Zidward doubles up. I'm sorry to interrupt, Ryan, but this is not the first time I've seen Andre put in his entire stack when it didn't really seem like he had to. He's got a lot of chips, it seems.
That was a very standard chip by him. Yeah. Zidward's like he essentially shoved effective 23 big blinds there. Like I like the pole's shove a lot better than Big Honey shove with queens. Like it's infinitely better.
Yeah, it wasn't even 23. It was he had like 560k to start hand. So it was 19.
Merrick's is 23
Elmerick,
big.
Sorry. Yep.
He 22 behind.
And also Marco Ziduart was also he opened like Queen Jack offsuit off a similar stack before, so we know that his opening range isn't like Torkalor's was the other day. He's actually opening with relative frequency that's just such an easy jam.
Okay.
And Ace Jack's going to run fine against the call range even still. So.
Yep. Yeah, that's super standard. Like I think Zidward has a raise fold range there too. So.
Oh, for sure.
Like, I'm not like 100% happy shipping Ace Jack there, but it's still a very snapshot. You just like don't want to see a snap call. You want to see Zidward tank and then call.
Yeah.
Get snapped. Let's go. Oh well. Let's think.
What is happening here?
It seems to be check raising. That's not surprising. It's hard to say like what his range is here. It could like depending on how he views Big Honey. I mean he's probably is going to be value weighted here versus draw weighted, but It's really hard to say. I mean, some people even check raising there with air. Like if they don't have a very wide check raising range, they'll just check raise there with air and value, and then check call mostly with draws, and sometimes check raise with draws.
Mm-hmm.
Especially at a final table, he's going to have so much fold equity, so he could literally be doing it with anything, depending on how he views Big Honey. But versus EP Open, he's probably just check raising value hands there, I would say.
What are the common tendencies so far at this final table? I mean, we are seeing a lot of min raising. How are people playing against? How are people playing against one another on average? Is there a lot of fighting, a lot of struggling?
I mean, there doesn't really seem to be, honestly, all that much fighting for chips or anything like that. I do seem to think that we do have a couple people that are very happy to just call pre-flop, see a flop, and then make decisions. Especially the poll, calling Ziduart's min raise with 8-7 suited out of the base blind. Was probably a terrible call, and he should just be shoving that pre. There are a couple other spots where we aren't really seeing as much fighting pre-flop as first time I've noticed a 4-bet.
Well,
I think there was one other.
So 3 to 5 here from Mukari. As Ryan's talking about the not much fighting, although this could very well be a cooler situation or
No.
just hasn't. But yeah, that's pretty much right. It seems like everything's been relatively straightforward. There's certainly been some light opening going on, but other than that, there hasn't really been any of the 3-4 betting like we just saw then at all, really.
Yeah. I really dislike Big Honey's 4-bet there, too. I think he's been playing somewhat tight at this table. The few times we've seen him go to showdown, he's had some really good value hands. And Mukari's been playing pretty tight as well. I haven't seen him really do anything. So I would, especially with how deep they were effective, I would think that Mukari's almost always 3-betting value hands there.
Yep.
Here we go. Elmerix and a call. Ace King versus 8s.
And good game, Elmerix.
Good game, Elmerix. All right, we're down to 6. And that puts Vojta in the lead with 2.7 million, thereabouts.
Around 60 bigs?
Huh?
No, more than that. 80 bigs. My math is bad at the moment. I'm pretty tired from my Dave excursions after sitting around for a month with nothing to do.
I was kind of hoping that. Here, what do we have here? We have a big raise.
Raise and a 3-bet, and I would also expect Alex KP to be doing this for value, almost always. He really wants to get a 4-bet chip down. And yeah, Elmerix took 7th for just under 39.
There we go.
Wow. I am very surprised at that.
Why?
I think I just again think that Mukari has been playing pretty tight and pretty straightforward, and that a lot of Mukari's, even though it is from the cutoff, I think a lot of Mukari's opening range there is going to be good enough to 4-bet shove. And depending on how tight he is, I would expect him to rarely fold and to just 4-bet shove a lot. Although it could be bad enough where he's raise folding Queen Jack for all I know. And Alex KP could think that Mukari just folds a lot to 3-bets. So if he does think that, then I guess he would be light there most of the time. But cutoff for Button, these days everyone expects Button to 3-bet light there. So if Mukari has a tight opening range, chances are Mukari has a 4-bet shove hand.
Yeah, and I think that both of them have seemed to play pretty straightforward so far as well. And Mukari was opening into, I don't even know if it's, the two most active players probably so far, which has been Andre and Ziduard have been probably the two most likely to see flops as well. So I expect Mukari to be 4-bet jamming a lot there actually. So.
I assume some people might be wondering about the eights versus ace king hand as to whether or not we thought it was decent. And I actually think his 3-bet call with eights was like super standard.
Yep.
Simply because like Elmerix can open wide there, and the fact that Elmerix can and will probably get it in with worse and get it in mostly with flips. I don't think he's getting in like fours, say sixes, but I would expect sevens to rip in. Maybe sixes and definitely ace jack plus, maybe even king queen suited, just because of how short he is. And he might think that Voida has a fold range, which I doubt he does there. I think pretty much everyone 3-bet calls there, even though it is not a bad spot to 3-bet bluff. And once he does 3-bet, he has to call the shove.
Yeah, I mean, I think he can definitely, like, with his sizing the way it was, I definitely think that he can have a fold range there. Because he only made it, like, less than 2x there.
Yeah.
So I definitely think he can be 3-bet folding there for sure, which is, like, one of the reasons why it's such an easy, like, 3-bet call. Is that you have a
super easy 3-bet call.
Yeah.
This hand seems to be a little bit interesting. Did it go EP raise 3-bet, then C-bet call, C-bet double barrel call?
I have no idea.
I don't know either. I'm going to show everything now, just so I can actually follow the action in case I missed it in chat. I should have been doing that on earlier final tables as well.
That'll be excellent. You're much better at actually calling the action than what I am. I kind of float away. It kind of makes me appreciate what you guys have been doing, because like when I got in here at first with Marco, I got so caught up just like talking to Marco that I don't think Marco and I actually talked about a hand for like the first maybe like 15 or 20 minutes. We were just like randomly chatting.
Okay, so the way
we were catching up, Matt.
We were, Marco. I enjoyed it. It was fun.
Okay, so the way the action went was the pull, Andre, min raise under the gun, Voida flat with ace king and cutoff, which I think in this spot is perfectly fine as a 3-bet or call depending on villain. I think versus Andre, because we saw his ace unsuited call earlier, I think he's like going to be very happy to call versus our 3-bet with like most of his under the gun opening range. So I'd rather 3-bet ace king there. And then the flop, Andre C-bet, standard call by Voida. And Andre made the C-bet pretty small too, like 35%. And then the turn was around 35% as well, and Voida called again, and then the river Andre checked, and Voida went for thin value. And we've got a massive potpourri.
What's happening?
Just for the record, I much prefer the Vegeta, 3-bets that spot for sure against Andre.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's like far superior to flatting that spot with ace king, for the reasons that you mentioned, which is like that I expect him to be flatting like close to his entire under the gun opening range, and it's not like he's opening ridiculously tight either. And also having the lead in the pot is also important. You know, the times that you don't actually flop hands. So. But yeah, so Huni opened. Onda's
Andre 3-bet, and then Zid
just
4-bet ripped, and then Big Honey snapped ripped.
Yep.
So I'm going to assume Big Honey has like ace king, jacks, maybe just ace king jacks plus.
Yeah,
I mean, it seems weird to me that like if I'm Big Honey, I don't have a snap rip range. Like I'm always tank calling, no matter what I have. Just because if Andre does have a value hand, I don't want to like scare him off queens.
Yeah,
what do you think? What do you think Andres is in the tank with right now? It's been a while.
Andre probably has either Jacks or Ace King. Like those are the hands that people would tend to tank
Yeah.
with here.
I think it'd be more leaning
like I would say
Jacks
it's,
at this point in time.
yeah, I would say that's what I was just about going to add, that I would be leaning strongly on Jacks. And I would say he's probably folding. I mean, most people here when they have Ace King, they just sign it in, even though I think it's a fold.
Wow.
Get the queens
Way
here.
all in. And the ace gets there.
Ace Bank. So
Leaves
No one
Hooney
goes
very short.
What do you
So
make of
who-
that?
I think Hooney was at the bottom of his range there.
yeah, I think Honey's at the bottom of his range too, and I think it's
probably the reason why he did snap rip, to be honest, Ryan. Like, as opposed to like, and I guess that's probably the problem with doing so is that if Andre actually thinks about it, like, I don't think Hooney's ever like snap ripping aces and kings there. Like, he's just not.
well,
and
I
if
doubt
he's-
Andre thinks at that level anyways. He's just going to be thinking, oh, he snapped ripped. I'm going to tank here with queens.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is if he actually gave it some thought there, like, you know, it shows like what you were saying, which is that it's probably a mistake to just like snap rip it in there with like any of your
actually-
range there.
Think with Jacks that it might be fine. Like Jacks and Ace King, that the snap rip just to like try to overvalue your hand, like just try to get people to fold. Like I guess Ace King there, like that's essentially what you're trying to do. You're trying to get Ace King to fold.
Yeah.
I still probably do tank a little bit with Jacks there, just to like make sure ICM wise I'm making a correct decision.
Yep.
I mean, you're playing for 250k, so or 225k, so making a mistake here would be pretty goddamn brutal. Not gonna lie. Stack Me Dong said earlier in chat. What did you guys think of a min raise pre-flop? See it a lot online, but not live. Why is that? It's for a couple different reasons. Live, you see in general a much lower level of play, a much lower quality. We have an all-in and a call. Ooh, brutal. That's really brutal.
Indeed.
Freaks straight by the river?
Yeah, that was a very standard hand, though. That his shove was pretty basic. Six-handed, under the gun raises. We have an ace in the big line and round 20 bigs, and he ripped it in. I probably prefer 3-bet folding there with ace-6. Like, I don't think it's a spot that anyone thinks we're light ever. And we're deep enough for 3-bet fold yet. It probably has the same fold equity as a shove does. And we really don't want to get called. So I'd rather just 3-bet fold versus ship it in. Although in the past, people would just 3-bet rip that or fold it. And now I think these days, this actually goes a lot towards answering my question earlier. Why do you guys think min raise online a lot versus 3xing live a lot? It's because when you min raise, you're able to play a lot deeper. So let's say this tournament was was live, and the average raise is 3x. When under the gun makes it 3x, when Andre 3x's, and we have ace-6 in the big blind, we can't really 3-bet fold. I mean, the mid 3-bet we make it is like a third of our stack, which I guess is about the line we can 3-bet fold. But even with ace-6, it's going to be pretty damn close as to when he rips it in, whether or not we should call. And generally, we should call, just because of the odds we're going to be getting. A min 3-bet there is most people would make it 6 bigs, around 6. So when you're playing online, when the min raises when the average raises to 2 big blinds, which is what you end up seeing these days, or 2.1 big blinds, that raises our effective play. So with 30 big blinds now, instead of being able to, let's say, versus 3x with 30 big blinds, we can 3-bet fold. Online, though, with 30 big blinds, it could go raise 3-bet to 4 big blinds, and then we could 4-bet to 8 big blinds and fold to a shove. So we go from being able to 3-bet fold to being able to 4-bet fold. It also allows us to steal more often. So let's say raising from the cutoff. Let's say he's doing this light and big honey chips on him. Oh, he loses 2 big blinds. He was risking 2 big blinds to win around 2 big blinds at the top. that play doesn't need to go through all that often. Now, 3x there, not only is he now going to be getting a really good odds on calling big on honey shove, but the times that he's light there, like he has to risk 3 big blinds to win 2 big blinds. So now his raise needs to go through a lot more often. This also means that he can't steal as often. So it's because of this that we've seen online, like the average raise online go from being like 3.5 big blinds to 3 to like 2.5, and now like I see regulars start min raising at 1530 with 1500 effective, which I think that's bad.
Yeah, me too.
But like people start min raising like really early now.
I think comparatively as well. Like, comparatively as well, you find in live poker, especially in softer live tournaments, that people tend to call a lot more. And like having, it's one argument to have slightly deeper stack to pot ratio or slightly deeper effective stacks through a min raise. But when you by making slightly larger raise sizes in live poker, when you're getting called, like there's some spots in live poker where I'll just like mash like 4.5x just because I know that some guy's calling, and you don't see that as much in online poker where people are just like calling any raise. But in live poker, you tend to get people that like want to see 3 a lot more often. Yep. So if your opening ranges are slightly tighter as well, like in some cases in some really soft tournaments, which, because in some you can have an open limping range as well. Generally speaking, there hasn't been that transition to the min raise, but you will find it deeper in tournaments when a lot of the better players are still there, or in like some really tough tournaments, you'll just see min raises because it's just like an online tournament. Like the lineups will be very similar.
Yep, I agree with that completely. That's what I was going to say essentially, is that it really depends on what table I'm at. There's spots where I'm 3xing, there's spots where I'm 4xing. Like a lot of times live, I vary my raise size much more. So as far as EP, I'll like 3x, 4x, or even 5x it. Then like mid position, I'll 2.5, and then like button. Sometimes I'll just min raise, sometimes I'll just 3x. And I do it entirely based off of who's looked at behind me, how bad they are, how often I'm getting played back at it. Not only that, but sometimes I'll even do my sizing based off of whether or not I have a value hand, because there are a lot of balance live, like especially I'd say something like the World Series of Poker, where they'll only play back at you with strong hands. So like say if I have a value hand on the button, I'll just 3x it. If I don't, I'll just min raise.
Yep. And people aren't good enough really to pay attention to that. Oh, and the last element of that also is that people in live poker, like again, I'm talking about like really reg-filled tournaments, is that not only are they more likely to, like, people are more call-y in general, they're also less likely to 3-bet in general. Like, there's far less 3-betting, like, in live poker than there is online. Like, online at, like, 10-20 these days, like, they'll just be, people are just 3-betting at a ridiculously high frequency. You'll see 3-bets a lot of the time, even at, like, 10-20 pre-ante these days. Whereas live poker really hasn't got to that point yet, and like you still don't see a very high frequency of 3-betting in live poker, so they're far more likely to just call. So that's another reason why you can get away with actually sizing your raises a little bit bigger, which goes back to what Ryan was talking about before in terms of what you're risking to win in the pot. You're actually not conceding that 3 big blinds as often just pre-flop as well. So.
Yep.
Very well done, guys.
Like, I think these kinds of adjustments between online and live are where the very good internet players make their biggest mistakes. It's these kinds of adjustments. Like online, you have to be balanced a lot. You have to make small adjustments between good and bad players. They're pretty easy to make. Like live, like there's so many times live where I'm just unbalanced. Either like I always have value hands, I always have bluffs, so on and so forth, just because I don't care. Like the villain I'm playing versus isn't good enough to hand read. Yeah, so it ends up being very, very, very player situation dependent. How I'm playing all my hands in every situation, much, much, much more so than online.
Agree. Marco, do you agree?
I certainly do. And you know what? I'll take it one step further. I think Matt, that when Convict Corner comes back, which it will, and you and Chu take, kind of a wider view, wider approach to talking about the MTT community internationally, which you're very good at doing, I think Potential should be featured a little bit more regularly.
Our international correspondent for Convict Corner.
Why not?
Sure.
Would you be interested, Potential?
What is Convict Corner? I don't
He's
know.
going to have to work on his Australian accent, though.
Well, Convict Corner is Australian Poker Radio, as we called it. Quad Jacks. Just before the World Series of Poker, in fact, this year, we were carrying a number of different programs, different shows. And since the conclusion of the World Series of Poker, we have not yet gotten around to successfully relaunching each one. But we are still committed to that process. And Convict Corner, which sees as protagonists these two MTT mammoths, phenomenons. It would be. I'll stop. It would be kind of a waste not to allow them to talk a bit more about the MTT community, because they've always shined when they did. So I think Potential.
Interested in doing stuff like that.
We've got to do something. We've got to do something. We've got to continue to engage.
Big Hooney running it up.
Yep.
Continue to
And
engage with the
has
MTT.
him locked on the turn.
So he has doubled up.
I really hope
Yes,
Big
Just
Honey
struggling there.
plays this much better than what he has been. I think he's only really made like 2 mistakes at this final table, but I think that Queen Jack one was a very, very big mistake. So hopefully now that he's rebuilt this deck, he's focused and good to go and ready to crush again. And yeah, I'd love to do any kind of radio work with you guys.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well,
Marco
I
has-
said it. I said it the other day, and I will say it again. I mean, it's there's. I don't think we could have covered this W Coupe so successfully and so enjoyably if it hadn't been for the amazing help and contributions by Ryan here. So, thank you so much. Here. Let's hear it for Ryan.
Oh, God.
Kings
Hooney's running
versus
it up.
fives. And
Wow.
yeah, Hooney's getting that
Nice
run.
to see
good.
Big Honey build up staff. Back to back for the same guy. Wow, what a life. And thank you very much, Marco. I do really appreciate that. I mean, I've always.
It's true. You've
enjoyed
done an
wanting-
excellent job, Ryan. You've made my listening experience more enjoyable.
I'm glad you've enjoyed it. I've always found that doing something like this would be really fun to do, and now that I have the opportunity to do so, I've always enjoyed your guys' show. Like the 2 weeks after Black Friday hit, like I hadn't turned 21 yet, so it was actually nearly a month after that I did, so I wasn't able to play live poker. So I wasn't able to play poker of any kind. So being able to listen to your guys' show was definitely a lifesaver. I would just grind MMOs and listen and have Quad Jacks going in the background 24/7. So now that I'm able to be a part of the show, it's definitely been a great experience, and very happy to continue with it after W Coupe.
Why don't we
Ryan.
have some upbeat piano music for moments like these? So
Ryan,
perfect.
how funny was it? Because I was also an avid listener back then. How funny was it when Pete used to lose his shit?
Oh, that was so hilarious. And Wombat poker stuff. Oh my god, those were some really good times of Quad Jacks. Not gonna lie. Just keeping it funny, keeping it laid back, and keeping it entertaining is definitely what I thought American grinders needed then. Kept a
there was
lot of
also-
us, I guess, sane through some of Black Friday.
Some prank calls as well were really good too.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff is kind of it was a lot of content, and we could never catalog it completely, break down completely. But a lot of that stuff is on our archive sites. Many people don't know we have one, quadjacks.net. If you go there and you have been a long-time listener like you guys, I think most people will be pleased to kind of rediscover a whole bunch of old interviews that some of us may even have forgotten about, but it should bring back some good memories. So don't make sure you check that out. Quadjacks.net.
Is that
had
the
a lot
one?
of really big names on here.
Is that the site that that guy that was helping you sharing 50% of the social media work was working for, Mark?
Yes. Yeah, Ben did a lot of work on Quadjacks.net. You guys are familiar with the unfortunate circumstances surrounding his termination. But we put out our PR statement, and we've both wished each other well, and he's looking for new opportunities. His LinkedIn profile says as much. All right, I think we are ready to. I think they're talking about a deal, guys. So let's see if we can.
Well, if they're discussing a deal, I'll stay through the end of this discussion, and then I have to get going. I'm dead beat right now, and tomorrow will be my first time ever playing a 500 rebuy, so I want to not lose a lot of money in that.
I see. So you are leaving us, Ryan.
Yes, shortly. After this deal goes through, or after it fails, one of the two. And I think this deal is likely to go through. It just seems to me like the fact that Big Honey isn't chip leading this, and that he has like a decent enough stack to get some leverage versus Alex KP. I think he'll be able to talk himself up into the numbers that he would say that he wants. And I would like to think that Void and Alex KP would probably be willing to give up some numbers. And I'm pretty sure Mukari will be pretty happy with whatever he can get as long as it's reasonable. Same with Sidyar. So as long as Big Honey and the other two guys aren't over the other two big stacks aren't overly greedy, I would expect this to go through. I could be wrong. I mean, it's all going to be personality dependent, but that's just what my assumptions are so far.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know much about deals. I don't really think about them, or I've never been in at a big, huge final table like this. But I've never really done deals or thought about them or anything. So I'm not going to be of any assistance when it comes to.
Yeah, it seems to me that Big Honey is always going to ask for more here. He's being offered 124, which is guaranteed third, and with his stack, and his position, I really don't see him accepting this ever. So he's probably going to ask for around 150, I would expect.
Yeah, I think he'd actually be insane to take it.
To accept this. This is ICM, the numbers that they posted, which is why the short stacks are both being offered over $100,000. But because of Big Honey's skill edge and his position, I would say that he is never going to be happy with this. Even though he has made some decent mistakes at this table, I definitely feel that he is the best player at this table yet. And just Zidyar snapsing, I agree, means that Big Honey can probably get 10k out of him.
Yep.
Mukari, he should be able to get another 10 to 15 out of him. And I think Alex KP and Void might be willing to give up a little bit as well. So if Big Honey does this really intelligently, he can probably get 150, and then that would actually be a legitimate deal for him. But I don't think if he can't get around 150, he really shouldn't do this deal. I don't, in my opinion.
That sounds about right to me as well. I without any real experience with deals or anything, I think that 124 is way undercutting Hooney at this point in time. So I think 150 would be around the mark that would be perfectly reasonable at this point in time. So again, without having any real experience, so I don't go deep in tournaments.
I go deep often enough, but I myself have never been a part of a big deal process. And the decent sized deals I've been a part of were I happened to luck box my way into top 3 the a big Hunt is asking what are the ICM, but Shaniac gave the ICM. That is 100% the ICM. Because if this wasn't the ICM, Voida would be getting offered like 220,000 or something equally ridiculous. Like the one deal that I was a part of, I ended up final tabling the 1R3X, which is, you know, a ridiculous field. So when you make that final table, it's just like people just want to give you money. And most of the deals that I have watched are just really, really good players who have been at like Sunday Million final table, warm-up final table, you know, Sunday Majors, W Coops, and those kinds of things. And it's pretty easy to see why people make the decisions they do when you watch deals, and what should actually be correct.
Oh, there you go. There is.
Maybe that was
Chip Chop.
That seems surprising to me because Voida has like a really decent like stack edge.
So what happened?
Wow.
So no deal?
Yeah, it seems surprising to me that Alex KP was a now they just offered ICM. But I don't think Alex KP saw the new numbers. Like ICM is showing 156, Alex KP 132. Big.
Alex is saying let's play.
Yeah, and let's see here. The new deal for Alex gives him only 2K more. It gives everyone else a lot more, which, yeah, Alex really probably won't be happy at all with 132, which means, yeah, I doubt if Alex is that unhappy with 132, then I doubt they will deal at all until three-handed.
Yep.
And even then, three-handed, it might not go through. It'll end up depending on chip stacks then, and how long three-handed takes to hit. Yeah, mid to high stakes regs, and has been here before. Yeah, Alex KP probably won't be dealing.
Hey, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
Before you go, can I just get a quick comment from you? Did you see the Howard Lederer interview, and if so, what did you make of it?
I have not submitted myself to that torture, I guess. And the reason why I'm calling it torture is because I think that it's just going to be like Howard, like, trying to make apologies for things that he did, and saying like, I screwed up here because of this excuse or that excuse or this excuse, or Chris Ferguson actually didn't screw up here, or Bidar didn't actually screw up here, and probably going to throw some other guys under the bus, especially Ivy. From what I've like the few things I've been hearing, like Ivy being thrown under the bus and a couple other guys, and it just seems to me that, like, me personally watching it, I won't get anything out of it, and even following the conversation about it, like, honestly, I don't really care that much. Like, it seems like pretty clear to me that no matter how you cut it, Lederer, Bitar, and Ferguson were the three top guys, and there's no way in hell that they ran that corporation like intelligently, or even with the modicum of intelligence, or even ethics. And because of that, no matter what he gets, he deserves it. And I'm not even going to respect him by listening to that interview.
God damn. All right, Ryan. Well, thank you for making me feel like I wasted my time.
Yeah, I tend to be aggro in what I say, and can be a little bit, well, as you guys had said earlier, something about someone saying that we're big heads, as in big egos, and just talk shit. I've got a pretty big mouth, and I tend to say what's on my mind. So there's some ranks who
said that. That
was really dislike me. And honestly, I don't blame them. I've got a bit of an ego at times.
Ryan, you're great. No, you come across as very
Thank
humble.
you, Mark. Oh, thank you.
No, that was Oyer Khan. You remember Oyer Khan, the mysterious luck bug?
Yeah, Oyer Khan.
He was saying we're all big heads, and I just have no idea. Like, how did that person find out that we were doing that broadcast? Like, did he have a friend? I mean, supposedly no one knew where this guy came from, yet this guy got wind that screw it. Anyway,
I guess that means you're a pretty big deal. When
in Turkey,
you're pretty
Turkey,
big deal.
That's right. Yeah, in Turkey, our reach is global. That our abuse of Oyercon may or may not have something to do with the current crisis across the Middle East, but Ryan, we don't want to keep you on any further if you have to bail, so feel free to leave us when you feel like it.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it once again. Had a lot of fun. I wish I could stay on longer, but really got to get going. If you guys like what I'm saying, follow me on Twitter. I post hands and stuff occasionally. It's at PotentialMN. And I will also be the premier high-stakes MTT coach on floattheturn.com pretty shortly. I'll have my first video out early October. Very cheap site to join, $8 sign-up fee, $8 a month. Bunch of other coaches joining as well, and it'll definitely be worth your money. They're also upgrading the forums, adding a chat, so you can chat with me as I'm grinding, that kind of stuff. So it should be a really good time and definitely worth your money. Thank you all for listening, and thanks for having me on, guys. Have a good night.
Well said, Ryan.
That was good, wasn't it, Matt?
That was enjoyable, Marco. He's a very smart kid.
A little bit of a pitch at toward the end there, but we approve of that. We're cool with doing some promos for our friends here at QuadJacks.
And he made life easy. He's a professional at this play-by-play business. Look at me, Marco. I don't even know what the hell's going on here. Mikari has a full house, but I don't know how he got.
That's us. See, Ryan leaves us, and we're completely lost. We're like headless chickens.
Exactly.
No. Anyway, Matt, it's good to be alone with you once again.
I'm just watching what happened. It looked pretty standard. Yep. Okay. I kind of expect, given that the deal didn't go down, I kind of expect that at this point in time, given that Alex was one that turned it down, that he certainly feels comfortable moving some chips around and applying pressure, especially to Mukari and Ziduart, who seemed to be the two. Well, I don't think Ziduart had that much to say, but Mukari definitely seemed keen on the deal. Or did Ziduart snap agree? Which one was it, Marco? Do you remember?
I don't. Yeah, Ziduart snap agreed, I think.
Okay, so those two guys seem like the two that were most keen on the deal, and at this point in time, it seems like I would expect this to take a little while, given that those guys are the two shorter stacks, and they probably want to hold on at this point in time to try to get to a deal, given that they seemed keen on it, and given that Alex KP has come out firing since that point.
Mm-hmm.
They may wait to see if he busts. So, yes, that's kind of one thing that I would expect is a possibility at this point in time, a probability.
Okay. I mean, stacks, with the exception possibly of Vojta, but stacks, they're not getting shallow, but they're getting a little shallower. I think most of these guys have about maybe 30 to 40 to their name.
Yeah.
So what is that going to mean? Are we going to have to see some, are they going to be constrained to, get more action in here from now on?
Given that it doesn't seem, up until this point in time, it hasn't seemed that anyone was willing to really get in pre-flop wars. You may see someone at, well...
And here we go. It's a flop set by Alex KP, who doubles up through Vojta. Vojta had quite the chip lead, but that hand puts Alex KP way ahead. You were saying, but that was on the flop. You were saying, Matt, before the flop, some hesitation.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it may open up the potential for someone at this 30 big blind effective stack to start testing people out with 3-bets. It is a decent size, stack size to apply pressure. If people aren't willing to 4-bet wide, which hasn't seemed to be the case at this point in time. So it'll be interesting to see if that dynamic opens up, and if that does open up, then I expect this to start moving along relatively quickly if that dynamic starts to come about, with a lot more 3-betting going on. You've also got to remember we're 5-handed now, so there will be more action just in general. It will... Otherwise, if this continues to go the way it will, it's kind of going to be a matter of waiting the blinds out a little bit and the coolers kind of eventuating. Just on that hand there, Vegeta opens under the gun for a min raise, and Alex KP flats 4s out of the small blind. Ziduart also flicks it in from the big, which he should do relatively wide there, given that he's... calling 400,000 into 225, so he's getting over 5-1 there. And we get like a low, a 6-4-7 rainbow flop. Ziduart leads. And if you go back to what I just said, which is that he should be flicking it in relatively wide there, this is certainly a board that he can represent. So it kind of shows that he is thinking about board textures, and he is thinking about relative ranges to a certain extent as well.
Mm-hmm.
So he leads Vegeta flats, which I expect to be pairs there a lot. Pocket pairs, because I don't ever expect, given what we just went through then, which is that this flop can potentially hit Ziduart's big blind calling range. I don't really expect Vegeta to like flat, say, like a random Queen Jack there, or like a random King Jack or something like that. I don't expect him to float naked over cards in that spot, so I think he's always got a pair. Alex KP makes like a 3x raise on this 6-4-7 flop, and it's a check raise, sorry. And I think this is like incredibly nutted. So I really didn't like the fact that Vegeta got it in on this board. Even though he has like an overpair and a gut shot, I think it's a slight overvaluation of his hand strength relative to what Alex KP's check raise range is here. Alex KP's check raise range here, given that he flattered from the small blind, is going to be, you know, sets a lot, and I guess the only hands that Vegeta really beats are going to be like a hand like 6-5 suited or 7-5 suited, which, you know, given that it went bet call on the flop, I think he can just peel with those hands anyway. Given that Vegeta's range looks exactly like it is, and I think Vegeta's at the exact bottom of his pair over. Well, he is at the bottom of his possible overpair range here. So I actually don't like Vegeta's get in there. Alex obviously played his hand very standardly, and you know, got basically gifted a double up. So I dislike Vegeta's stack off there very much.
Mm. Well, all right.
Did you like it, Marco?
No, not after you excoriated it so in the space of 5 minutes. Okay.
Sorry, how many hands missed?
Now
20?
I'm just rooting for Vegeta to bust. You know, fuck this guy. But I want to ask you later what you thought of the Howard interview, because I know you saw it. I think you were tweeting about it earlier today.
Tweeted
while I was watching it.
About it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have watched them all.
You have?
Yes.
I was talking about you the other day on the air, and because I told you I'm such a fan, and I told you, I think you heard this. I was looking up some of your videos, and you played on Full Tilt Poker, and it was kind of weird, you know, seeing the software again, you know, seeing those images that we were all kind of familiar to. And you've had, you know, you must have had a relationship to Full Tilt Poker as a platform, as a software, as a source of income. Obviously, it was much more profound than mine. So we've discussed Full Tilt Poker and how it's affected you. And I don't know. I don't. Now that he's gone, I guess I feel more comfortable contradicting him. I don't take as absolutist or resentful a view of this interview as Ryan, perhaps. But that's probably because, as a member of the media, you know, I've read, you know, every single story about Full Tilt Poker, you know, every single piece of gossip and lead and exclusive and original and stuff like that. So, and since April of last year. So, obviously, something like that is going to interest me very much from a knowledge point of view. But here we have heads up between Ziduart and Vojta, who find themselves pretty even in chips. How would I describe this flop, Matt? Would you describe this as a dry flop? I wouldn't, but then again, maybe I just don't get what those words mean by now. I mean, dry is supposed to be like scattered, irregular, fruitless, whereas wet is supposed to be laden with, or giving the.
That would be a semi-wet board. You could call it a wet board. It's definitely not a dry board. You were right about the dry boards. Your dry boards are like, if it's like, one way you can generally determine, which would be really easy for you, is like the gaps between the cards. Mm-hmm. The greater the gap between each of the cards, the drier the board in general, providing the suit, and then obviously provided the suits aren't all the same. And the closer the gap, the wetter the board. That's a good way, just as a guide, I guess, for you to be able to describe the board as either wet or dry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's exactly what I said. Everyone in chat is of course lecturing me, because that's what we do here on Quadrax TV. We get very patronizing and condescending to Marco. Marco, it was not a dry board. Thank you. Exactly. Yeah, that's me on Quadrax TV. MJW. That's what I have to put up with. I'm kind of like everyone's bitch. Everyone knows that they can pick on me because I'm nice. But okay, I will just carry on.
We have a pot developed here. Hello, Zach.
Marco. MJ,
hey.
Good job tonight.
Thank you.
We have a pot developing, MJ.
We do.
It's like a dark room here, Developing nothing. Okay, all right. Big bet by Mukari.
Is a big bet.
That is a pretty big bet. We're looking at. We're looking at about maybe that was about 3/5 of the pot. Not really sure what happened on the flop there, but we know that Huni checked and had to stood by as half of the pot.
Yep.
Oh, that's right, because it's 6. That's right. Yeah, half the pot. That's true. And a re-raise and a snap call. So we have.
He got there too.
He gets there. Wow. Okay, so take us through that bolt of lightning, MJW, please.
Oh. Okay. So I wasn't watching the hand at first. There was a min raise under the gun, and Big Huni flats 2 aces in the big blind, which, given the fact that I was just talking before about how there's not really this 3-bet, 4-bet dynamic going on, it's actually really good for deceptive value. His stack is relatively deep to be doing this. Like, he is 40 big blinds effective. I mean, it's fine, and it's definitely decent for deceptive value. It come 9-10-4 rainbow. Mukari c-bets just under half the pot, and Big Huni puts in a check raise. On the smaller side for sure. Mukari flats, and the turn comes with the 7 of clubs, which puts 2 clubs on the board. Mukari bets half the pot, as we described as it was happening, and Huni tanked and jammed it in. At this point in time, Mukari was calling 1.1 million into 2.3 million, so he's getting just over 2 to 1, and he can expect to have 4 kings, 4 8s, and 7 clubs. So he can expect to have 15 outs, so he can expect to have like 30% equity there. On average, 30% equity, and that would be clean outs generally. So getting 2-1, getting just over 2-1, he had to call it off. There are ICM considerations, but given that he would still have 20 big blinds, even if he calls this off and still be alive in the tournament, I definitely think that he can call it off. And he ended up binking the king off on the river,
Yeah.
as you do. So it was quite. I think it was one of those hands that was played well by both players on both sides of it. There's not really too much either could have done. I think once Mukari bets the turn, he has to call it off. He could have sized it a little bit bigger, I think, on the turn, because essentially what he did was he made it half the pot, which would have made it like 1.2 million, and there would have been He made it 1.2 million, and I think there would have been. Sorry, let me look. Oh no, he sized a pot-sized jam for the river. Yeah, so his sizing was fine as well. Big Hoonie definitely could have bet the turn though after check raising the flop, but it is what it is, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Are we on the verge of looking at another deal? And if we are, how does Big Hoonie's removal kind of change the circumstances of a deal since last time?
I don't think Big Hoonie's removal changes the circumstances as much as Alex having a lot more chips at this point in time now. Big Hoonie didn't have anything to say, if you remember back to the original deal. He said nothing the whole time. And the other guys were basically the ones that started it and ditched it. So I think Alex now will be in more of a position of power, given that Hoonie is gone. So that will be the only effect there. And Alex seems like he's going to be aggressive about this, irrespective. So I'm not even sure if they're going to get to that point.
Yeah, he said that he wants 180,000 now, right?
Yeah, I believe so. And he would get that. I would say that if they went to a deal right now, he would get 180. He would, because they've got one less player now as well, so they're four-handed. So without actually putting the stacks into like an ICM calculator, I would say that he would get. I would say he'd get 180, especially because the other two guys are really short, like Vegeta or. Hang on, someone was saying in chat before how to pronounce it. Vojita.
Voita. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little bit of like a Voita.
What the hell?
That's that sounded a lot like foul play. I hope that Zach is okay.
Wait, you guys are no longer together?
What? Me?
Were you guys in the same place for a long time?
We were, but then I mean, I wanted to start seeing other people, and
Is Zach jealous?
No, we were never together in. We were never co-tenants, if that's what you mean.
Right.
But yes, sometimes we will be in the same location as we man the show. Today is not one of those times. If I could check up on Zach right now, I would. Actually, let me... Everything... Alright.
Help!
So this is very interesting right here. I don't expect Alex to be light here ever, really. There's these two really short stacks there. Even though he has been aggressive up until this point in time, it'd be crazy for him to go nuts in this spot and bust in a spot like this when there's two guys that are basically on the 20 big blind mark when he and Mukari are both quite deep.
I see.
So I expect him to have a strong hand here, and I actually expect that a raise would take it by Mukari at this point in time. I think even if Alex is raising a strong, three betting a strong range from the small blind, that bet size really kind of gives it away that he'll be bet folding there a lot, which is how it eventuates. And Mukari can be applying a bunch of pressure at this point in time to Alex. It doesn't seem like Alex really wants to take his foot off the throttle at this point in time, which Ziduart and Vegeta?
Let's call them VR, okay? VR, Matt.
And, yeah,
MJW.
They will probably be enjoying the fact that Alex isn't taking his foot off the pedal, because if he were to bust to Mukari, that's a huge win for those two guys.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And Mukari seems to be done with this pot at this point in time, so.
Yeah, exactly. Who do you like out of these guys left? I guess Mukari.
I think Alex is definitely seems to be the one most willing to play pots at this point in time, and as it gets shorter-handed, that aggression will generally shine through. So if I had to pick someone at this point in time, I would probably pick Alex, despite the slight chip discrepancy. Who would you pick, Marco? Who do you like?
Who do I like? I kind of like Mukari. I think it's not just because of the chip lead. I think Mukari has shown to be, fairly calculating when it mattered throughout this final table. The open-ended straight call, the one where he got there and busted Huni, that kind of surprised me a little bit. I mean, the haste of it surprised me, but I guess he had made up his mind that it was worth it.
Yeah. Which definitely shows that calculatedness that you were just speaking about.
Yes. Yeah, so there you go. I mean, you know me, Matt. I like a calm, strong man in control. So that is why I am drawn to Mukari. He's more of he's a better caregiver. If he was a better caretaker than a lot of these daredevils. You know what I mean?
Hey, do you think that sorry to come back and just jump in, but do you guys think that everybody else at this table is aware that Big Huni's dismissal has really helped them out?
To be honest, I don't know if he.
Here we go.
And well done, Ziduart. Double stuff.
You guys notice that there was like a little bit of a sweat on that river card? I don't know.
Well, they had to make sure they rigged it properly. Duh.
Right. Of course.
It wasn't even.
But no. Anyways, my question just is like, do you think that they I heard you guys talking a lot about Big Huni, and I just was wondering if they respected his game as much as you guys have. What do you think, MJ?
Yeah. Well, I know VR and Alex KP being regulars, mid-high stakes TT regulars, would definitely be well aware of Huni and what he's capable of, and they would probably be happy to see him go out. The other two, I'm not sure. So, like, in a situation like this, any time that a good player, like a really good player, and arguably the best player left here, without knowing too much about the other guys, I would say Huni was the most experienced player in a situation like this. go out, it's obviously advantageous for everyone. In saying that, it's advantageous for anyone to go out. Like, you're happy to see the back of anyone at this point in time because the pay jumps are significant, and it all gets you closer to, obviously, your end goal, which is to win the tournament. So you're happy to see the back of everyone, and to answer your question more directly, yes, they're probably more happy to see Huni go out than someone else at this point in time.
Okay. Cool.
Now, does Mukari and Alex KP sitting right by each other put them in a position, MJW, where they will be warring more often?
I believe so, especially because Alex seems like the one more willing to play pods at this point in time. Mukari, what I was just about to say before him, actually, was Mukari has tended to show up with the goods every time we've seen a showdown. He was certainly a lot more timid early on in the final table, and as he's become more active, we have seen him showing down like nutted hands for the. I don't know if we've seen him show down anything but nutted hands up until this point in time. So whereas Alex is definitely the most aggressive player at this point in time, and you can see that he's attempting to apply pressure where he can, and as you can see going on right now. He just 3-bet bluffed that flop.
Didn't work.
So as you can see, he's the one trying to apply the most pressure. So the fact that he's to the left of Mukari as opposed to the other way around, I think that you'll definitely see those two getting into more battles as it goes on. And I would actually favour your man, now that the stacks have changed a little bit, Marco, for the fact that Mukari has shown up with the goods when he's got it in, and it seems like Alex may be a little on the reckless side. So, Mukari, if he's patient, I dare say that he will get the chips.
That's the name of the game.
It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, well, that last hand by Alex really showed a lot of impatience. Like, he did just double Ziduat just moments ago with the ace-queen against the queens, which is a standard cooler at this point in time. He opened the small blind and got a 9-3-4 flop, which would be... Marco, is that a dry or a wet flop?
That looks pretty dry to me.
It is a dry flop. And he c-bet, got raised on that board, and put in a 3-bet and got jammed on. It's not the worst spot to put in a 3-bet bluff on that board texture, especially as the pre-flop raiser. Although I kind of, given that Ziduat just doubled through, and also given that the way that Ziduat's played so far, I don't know if he's necessarily going to be light that often in that spot. Nonetheless, it's not the worst spot to take, and it shows that he may be getting a little on the reckless, impatient side and trying to force things, which I've done many a time, which generally leads to downfall. When you start getting impatient and trying to make things happen rather than let things run their natural course to a certain extent.
So you kind of like saying let the game come to you?
Not necessarily. Like, it's great to be applying pressure in good spots. I just, like, you kind of want to pick your spots. You don't have to take every single spot that's presented to you. Okay. And I think that it's a mistake that I'm definitely guilty of making frequently, which is I try to take every single plus EV spot that's presented when that's not really the aim of the game. Like, you can. I used to hate, coming from a heads-up background, I used to hate when people are like, I'll wait for a better spot. That's not really what it is, but it's it's passing on some close plus EV spots in order to find the bigger, like, the substantial plus EV spots. And I don't know if that was necessarily a spot that he had to take, even though it wasn't the worst spot in the world. If that does that make sense?
Of course, yeah.
And you can certainly fall into a trap, especially if he was a little flustered from going from being like very clear second in chips to now being like third in chips. It can certainly be a frustration thing, perhaps. because he was in a position to deal before, and as we saw, he was very aggressive about that, and he wanted 180,000. And now he's in no position at all to get anywhere to get anywhere near that at this point in time. So maybe some frustration creeping through.
Yeah, and I think, Marco, you brought that up. With these guys sitting side by side, it's going to definitely put them into some spots which they probably would rather not be in. They, it's bad for the two big stacks to be side by side like that at this point, I would think. What do you think, MJ? You're the expert.
Oh, yeah. I mean, at this point in time, like, you're four-handed, so you're going to be, within 2 seats of another.
Right. Sure.
Anyway. So I don't know if it affects it as much as the fact that Alex was just to Mukari's direct left. The stacks have changed now anyway, where they're not the two big stacks anymore, and Alex is seemingly getting shorter and shorter. It's definitely not as much a consideration at this point in time. I think Alex needs to take a chill pill and just have a breather and just sit out a couple of hands. And just regather himself, because it seems like he's losing control a little bit here.
And you said he was a reg, right?
Yeah, he is.
Huh. So this could be tilt?
Possibly.
Okay.
The way that this has gone, though, Marco's pick is looking very good. Like, he's just picked up a bunch of chips, and now seems to be upping the aggression, which is perfect for him to do, and it just apply a ton of pressure to these guys now. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a 3-bet here as well on Ziduart.
Which is flats.
Flats.
Very
which
wet board here, or very wet flop.
It is.
Very wet, Marco, yes.
Extremely wet, yeah.
And it could be in... are we calling him Mukari?
Mukari, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's in his range as well for just flatting there, no?
Yeah, well, he can definitely represent that type of board texture. I would endeavour to say that, like, I said it was a good 3-bet spot. It's also a good spot to flat, just because, again, like, with the stacks the way they are, he can apply a ton of pressure to everyone at this point in time, in particular Ziduart and Alex KP, because he has all the chips. Vegeta's really short, or VR is really short, so he can just be playing a bunch of pressure to these guys at this point in time, because they are not in a position where they want to be bleeding chips like Alex is doing so.
Okay.
I just have this idea of Mukari being this, like, really cool and collected, cold-blooded, maybe even individual. Like, he can get by through an entire snuff film and smoke a cigarette as if he's watching, the sunrise,
Mukari's actually a slight losing player.
Oh.
Just looking him up.
This should turn that around, no?
Yeah, not anymore.
So even if he goes out in 4th place, he will be up.
Yes.
Good for Mukari. He's getting his comeuppance.
Looks like Alex KP has won the Sunday Million for 270,000.
Wow.
He won a 2K Turbo for 240,000. So Alex has definitely had some good scores, which would explain why he's been the most aggressive when it came to deals.
Got it.
What happens when people win those things? I mean, how is online poker success chronicled? Like, I know that some poker sites write, like, the online poker action report. Like, who reads that thing, MJW? Do you consume a lot of MTT media, MTT content to keep up with this type of stuff?
I pretty much read Pocket Fives, and, like, I'll read who won on the weekend and stuff, and be jealous every week. So it's the jealousy report, not like the online poker report. It's just where you, like, open it and you're like, oh, again, did they win again? Yeah. So I mean, I'll look at the results and articles relating to MTTs and stuff on Pocket Fives and on some training sites you'll see around. But yeah, it's definitely not as prevalent as. I guess it's not. I don't think it would be read at a very high frequency.
Okay. Well, did you hear about that the poker awards that like Chris Moorman was won the award for best player or something? Like, how did they do that?
I don't know.
I got too distracted.
No, was that the one where Hinden Mob as well was like voted the best forum?
Yeah, and then Mob was the best forum, I want to say.
Where do you get that information? I don't even know.
I don't know who's judging.
Where do I get it in? Where do I get the information?
Yeah, like where did you find out about it? Is there a site that you can go and look at who won all these awards?
Yes, there should be by now. Poker Awards.
Pretty simple URL.
So the blinds are just up to 25.50, so it's definitely going to force the action now that VR's under 20 big blinds. The other guys are floating exactly around 30, so I imagine that this is going to get a lot faster at this point in time.
Mukari putting pressure on Mr. VR's big blind.
Okay, and we got a 3-bet jam for just over 30 big blinds from Ziduart. He's shown that he's capable of jamming wide. I expect him to have a small pocket pair here, some kind of marginal hand. That would just be a plus EV jam, and he doesn't really want to get called that often. So I expect him to have like marginal holdings, like deuces through to like sevens there, and maybe like ace jack and like ace 10 suited maybe.
Got it.
King queen suited.
Okay, so they're actually the BritishPokerAwards.com, so it makes sense that.
And we've got an all-in and call.
And looks like a double up.
And a double up.
Yeah, this Ziduart, keeps getting at the expense of Mukari this time. So you see, now you would think Mukari would be in any way even slightly offset by this. You'd be wrong. Mukari has seen, gruesome murders happen right before his eyes when he was, fighting in the Iran-Iraq war. I'm going to make him Iranian just because I feel like it.
I like
even though he is from Finland. Okay, well, he's had to take refuge in Finland because, of course, yes, he's Iranian. But being, the virtuous badass that he is, at one point he would not stand for the theocratic tyranny and decided to flee. But, of course, not before burning a shit ton of bridges along the way. In fact, the Iranian government probably still has it out for him. As issued file was.
That's what I've heard.
Anyway, Alex KP shoves Vojta here. Now, Vojta is, well, everyone else seems to have been kind of chipping up. Vojta's share has been falling. So, what happens? Like, does he have to start shoving? Does he have to start calling lightly here? Or
well, I mean, that was very interesting, Marco, that he actually raised folded there with 15-ish. I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's more standard these days for people to raise fold short stacks. Like, I'll raise fold to like down to like 10 big blinds even sometimes. It depends on, given exactly what Marco was just saying, which is that he has not been seen for some time. Probably not. He was probably just trying to sneak one through there, because just picking up the blinds and antes, he picks up, like 2 big blinds there. And when your stack's only like 11 big blinds, that's quite an increase to your stack. So he's going to be all in here though.
5.
And he doubles. So he can be min raising there and just trying to sneak one through, and he can be doing it relatively wide as well. Like, if it doesn't really matter, like, I know that some people will try to have like blockers or something that's playable if you get flattered. which is a small element, but when you're raising off such a short stack, sometimes the spot is more relevant than the cards that you have. If you're just snap folding to a raise anyway, then your cards only matter like very little. So he can actually be raising really wide in that spot, and not expecting to be getting free bet light at all. If he thinks that that's the spot, then it's perfectly fine to raise fold. But now he has a double, so see what happens here. Oh good, I think we missed the last break. I really need to get myself a drink.
Yeah, I hear you.
Drinking
How did we
and
miss the last
commentating?
How did we miss the last break?
You guys were talking through.
Oh,
Kinda
really?
Like in golf, where it's like in golf where you play through. You guys talk through it.
Yeah, you and Ryan had forgotten that there was even a final table to be commentating. You just got so
Probably, yeah.
you know. Oh yeah, I could go for some scotch right now. Actually, I haven't had scotch in a while. When's the last time I had scotch? Long time. I think last time I had scotch was when I was with you, Zach. Might have been my last night of scotch drinking. And
At the
boy,
end
did
of
I
the
get my fill.
WSOP.
Yes.
Yeah, we definitely drank a little bit that night. Alex betting into the donkey.
I don't like Alex's sizing here at all.
Too
I think it's
small,
way
or?
too small. Small no matter what he has here. He definitely on this type of board texture wants to be like at least like 120, 130,000 on this board texture with his entire range. If not bigger, like you can definitely get away with being bigger. We also saw him make this sizing against Mukari before on a monotone board. And he just snap folded to a raise, so I kind of expect that it'll be weak here.
Go have a drink, MJ.
Alright, I'll be right back.
Are you getting the scotch, Marco?
I don't have any.
Oh, I thought you were talking about getting the scotch. Hey, did you see the golf article today by Mr. Fairway?
The golf article by Mr. Fairway was very good. Now, I
know you're a big golfer.
I'm new to golf. No, I'm new to golf, but I enjoyed reading it nonetheless, and I think that any person who's into golf should definitely check it out because it's an imminent competition, isn't it? It starts tomorrow or something.
Yep, and the Ryder Cup is coming up next week.
Mm-hmm.
So that should be interesting.
Yeah, Fairway J. I mean, golf is like his. That's like his biggest thing. I mean, that's his name too. Fairway is supposed to be some sort of golf term. So. I definitely saw that.
Do you know what a fairway is, Marco?
The fairway is supposed to be the green area where, like, the course is the smoothest, and therefore it is easier to putt. Hmm?
No, that would be the green where you putt. That's like the actual putting surface, which is, I think, smoother than the fairway. The fairway is just where you tee off, and you want to put the ball into play on the fairway.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
It does. So it's good to be in the fairway, not so good to be in the rough. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. You want to be in the fairway, yes.
You don't want to be in the rough. Therefore,
No.
you want to listen to a man who has made fairway into his name. That's how close he is to it. That's how partial he is to the fairway.
His posts are in the middle. They're fair. Very fair.
Yeah, I don't
posts,
know if I could make my name a place where I hang out a lot. Like maybe I would be like Timeline Marco because I'm so much on Twitter.
Right.
Or WordPress back end Zach. I think that would be you. But yeah. So Fairway J is doing well, and.
No, it's interesting. The Ryder Cup is huge. Do you know what the Ryder Cup is? It's kind of, it's interesting stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
It's
yes.
it's like the World Cup of golf.
The World Cup. Oh wow, the World Cup. Of
Yeah, and I don't even think it's the World Cup because I think it's like it's like America versus everybody else. I think if I can get some help from the audience, but yeah, I think that's what it is, Mark.
But I was on the PokerStars website the other day.
You can't play
and
from the United States.
Well, yeah, I almost risked arrest, and I saw something called the World Cup of Poker.
Yes.
I'd never even heard of that. What is that? Is that a new thing? I can understand if it was a new thing because, especially with the
World
expulsion.
Cup of Poker.
Yeah, I've never.
I've heard of it. I don't know how much traction it actually has, Marco, but I have heard of it. Yes.
Have they ever played it?
I think so. I think that it's an online thing, if memory serves me correctly.
World Cup of Poker. Wow. I mean, with the expulsion from the American market, I can see why something like the World Cup of... I mean, the World Cup is, just a bigger thing. It's huge everywhere except America, even though in America it's starting to get a little bit more popular. So I can see, how that would be something they get more serious about now that they don't have to worry that much about appealing to American players,
No, I think that they've had this in the past. I do.
All right.
I can't say for certain.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it is something that they have done in
Apparently,
the past.
a fellow by the name of James who's been Skyping me the whole time I've been on the air almost says in regard to the Ryder Cup playoff May.
What's playoff? Playoffs? I'm not sure I follow.
Yeah, I don't know. Thanks, but no thanks, James.
Yeah, I don't know, Marco. That one's
okay.
That one definitely is in the rough.
Wait a minute. Thank you, Rodney, for pointing out this useful link. The World Cup of Poker is an annual poker tournament which was established in 2004. Or, excuse me, I'm way off. The preliminary rounds are conducted online, and the finals were initially held in Barcelona, Spain. But since 2009, they've been moved to the Atlantis Resort and Casino in the Bahamas.
Yeah, it's played. It's a PokerStars thing. Yeah.
Speaking of tournaments that begin online and then move to live, did you hear about the International Stadiums Poker Tour just backing off the guarantee a little bit? Apparently, they're not so sure. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, apparently, in order for there to be a tournament at all, there must be a quorum, as they call it, a minimum of 15 players registered. Otherwise, they can't even have the tournament.
How many players?
15,000. Yeah. Well, you know what? I mean, like, I always kind of like this idea of the ISPT. I never really judged it. I think it'd be kind of cool though. Like, it seems like
of course, it's a great
it feels
idea.
Like this poker jubilee. I wouldn't mind actually going if they have one in England. Just go in there and hang out and, just be able to say, like, yeah, I was there. I saw it.
Right.
This massive gathering of poker players. Like, if they can pull it off, and everyone talks shit, which is, but standard. But, if they can pull it off, 15,000 poker players all gather in a stadium, just the sight of it would be
awesome.
A sight to behold. So
it'd be awesome.
I hope they succeed. I
So
hope
do
that if everything is in order, they can make it work. Has MJW quenched himself yet?
I have.
Oh.
And we're back here with the coverage of this 1K final table, which it's surprising because I don't think Random Chew made it, and he pointed out the other night that he was going to be at the final table, so hopefully he's okay. And
it's good to be confident.
Yes, definitely. I don't think Random Chew lacks any of that.
He certainly doesn't. He's also been on a year-long heater as well. While I've been going downwards, he's been going upwards, which I'm very happy for him. But it just inflates that giant ego that he has.
Sure.
Now, I don't like Macari's raise sizing here. Alex KP had 20 big blinds. That's twice now in a row that Alex had 20 big blinds in the big blind. And raising blind versus blind, Macari made it like 2.4x from the small blind, and it's just like completely unnecessary. Like every time he does that, he's just burning chips because I don't think Alex is going to flat him very often at all there. So essentially, you can achieve the exact same thing by making it like 100,000 as you can, or even like 105,000. Like you achieve the exact same thing as you do if you make it 120,000. If you believe that Alex is just jamming or folding that spot, which I believe that he actually is at this point in time off a 20 big blind stack. I don't really think that he's going to be flatting very often at all, given how this is all played out.
Why you're here, MJ,
so-
expert analysis.
Well, it's something that I think people need to think about. Like the listeners, it's probably something that the listeners can think about when they're playing is trying to get away with putting the minimum amount of chips in, but achieving the exact same result. Because it can only increase your AV if you achieve the same result for a smaller amount that someone else would with it for a larger amount. Because it's like anything, like, you know, it's only going to work a certain percentage of the time, and by...
Ooh, goodbye, Boita. Goodbye.
You haven't got a 3 on the river just to rub it in. GG. Voita? I don't have
And
to
I
say
just
your name.
tweeted that we were four-handed, so... Damn it.
Wrong.
Alex now says I'll look at a deal.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. So...
And here we go. So let's bring up. I'm going to bring up the chat box, Marco, for all the folks at home.
And I don't know why you've never played the Jeopardy theme during your
I just
moment.
don't have it ready. All I have, dude, for soundboard is me failing.
Yeah, the
and
fact that
having
that's
more.
all you have for a soundboard is a fail, okay?
I know. Just getting back into the swing of doing this stuff, Marco. You know?
How do you not have random hit tunes?
I know,
wow.
right? Good read,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
You actually do it really well.
Yeah, I mean,
Got it
I've
down
heard it a
pat.
lot. Heard it a lot. Have to admit, it's on my iPod.
Ringtone and everything.
Yeah, the ringtone. Who's that? Oh, that's Random Chew. So again, we're looking at another deal. I'm actually, you know, for the amount of these that we've done, MJ, I'm really surprised we haven't seen as many deals as I thought we would have. I like it when they don't deal, just because it's more fun to see people playing for big amounts of money.
Me
But,
too. I'm an anti-deal person, so I mean, again, I've never really played, like, I've never really deep in, like, like I've won a major on, like, Party, which is probably one of the places where there's an argument for a deal, because the pay structure is so steep, but it was never, like, this big money up top, so
Right.
I've never been in this situation where I would definitely consider it, but, I've always been, like, an anti-deal person, so probably because of my heads-up background and being more comfortable short-handed, so
Yeah.
it's a personal thing for everyone.
And so yeah, so our good friend VR, he cashed for as Shaniac likes to say, a very hefty $91,000. So good job, VR. He's from the Czech
I could use
Republic.
91.
91 would be nice, yeah. Definitely. So it looks like we're waiting for the numbers. It looks like Shaniac's got the what are those little calculators that the Chinese used to use, Marco? What are those things called? Where they had the little beans or the
Abacus.
does anybody know? Yeah, the abacus. Shaniac's got the abacus out. He's running the ICM numbers. I'm surprised that they don't have those sort of numbers just all the time at these final tables. You know what I mean, MJ? Like, kind of like a HUD. That'd be pretty cool.
Sorry, Zach. I was vague.
Like a no, like a HUD of your ICM and compared to the table. That'd be pretty cool.
Well, I mean, no, because you don't want the fish to see. You don't want fish to understand what ICM is. So,
Okay.
The less people that know about ICM, the better. Obviously, I guess because people can make massive mistakes and not realize it. Like, people can
Okay.
still be playing the exact same way as they do at the start of a tournament at the end of a tournament, which will be a big
Okay.
mistake when there's money involved. So we don't really want people to know what ICM is or what the value of their stack at this point in time is, because it may lead to them not making the mistakes that they would make otherwise.
And here's Mookie saying he's getting offered. Oh, now look at this. Alex is saying, "Hey guys, listen. I've won a scoop and 2 T-Coops, plus Alto of big tournaments. Plus, I play No Limit Heads Up and SH. ... So, would like to get a little sum as Deep NL is my strength. Plus, this is a run-on sentence. Plus, I play high stakes and is not money scared. ... I hope you can see where I'm coming from." And he follows up with, "What about 160 and 160 and 177 for you?" So Alex, still throwing this around. Just before that, Mookie chimes in and says, "Give me 180 and that's it." So it looks like this is a lot of fun.
I think that deal would go through. I think that 160, 160, 177 would go through, because Mukari's not losing anything. It's just Ziduart that's losing.
Right.
And I think Alex tuned in to the fact that Mukari wasn't overly happy about... Mukari was actually asking for more than what his numbers showed.
Yeah, and so Alex is, I think, jumping the gun here. This is where he needs to learn a little negotiations and kind of slow down. He's saying, one hand, Moo, and you're the short stack. And now Moo comes back and says, "I believe you are better at heads up, but these stacks are just wanting big hands to collide, so edge is on my side because I'm chip leader." Zudart chimes in and says 160, 160, 177 is nice for me, therefore 177 is very good for you. I can win 191. Mookie saying 178, he wants that extra 1,000.
Which is ridiculous at this point in time to kind of...
yeah. Stick to your guns, Mookie. Yeah, Alex says, "Why are we arguing about 1K? Let's be fair, we all made a lot of money." Yeah, but Alex, did you forget that you won a scoop?
Shit, okay.
Yeah, that's how Mukari should come back. He's like, "You don't need the money. You just won 2 turbo coops. You won a scoop.
Right.
Like, you're just telling us how big a baller you are. You don't need the money. I need the money, man." That's what my argument would be.
And he says, "Well, because Beck," he says, "Beck, I'm the most experienced, and I've won more than you two combined. And Stars wants me to win all in pre-flop." Yeah, wow. I don't know if Shaniac agrees with that or Esai, but if you guys are listening, I'd like to know.
Ooh, I will take it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. They're both in Scandinavia, by the way, so...
Zidu. What does Zidu mean, Marco? Is that like some...
Zidu? I don't know.
Zulu
that sounds
magic?
like some weird Chinese pirating fucking website. Where'd you get that song, Zidu?
No, it's
You wanna give Moo 1K? Then there's a deal. And then Ziduart intervenes like he matters.
He'll give 0.5K. Pretty sick.
Hey guys!
It gives 0.5. That means Alex has to give up $300 to get him $313, because Mukari said he wants exact ICM, which is 177,813. So all that Alex has to give up is $313, and we're good. And they're good.
Zidu
178.
Yeah, Zidu is the other guy's name. That's right. I'm so idiot. Split rest with me and Z.
Yep. Mukari says, 178 is fine with me. Looks like we got a deal. I wonder how this is going to change things afterwards, because what are they playing for? 15,000?
Yeah, I mean, I don't... Like, after this deal's done, I don't expect this to be... Like, it's one of the things that I hate about deals is it ruins, like... I mean, I believe there was one final table you did. Was it the... You did the scoop, didn't you? And you did, like... There was one... Was it the main where there was a big deal done, like... Where it was, like... 7 or something handed or something ridiculous.
Yeah, that was the one that... that's the one that Grippo won. Or chopped, yes.
Yeah, and there was like just a really long deal done, and like it just kind of from there on, like they're just playing for the title. So, it takes out one of the things that's interesting about doing a final table is like, and it's one of the reasons why you have commentary on a final table and not in the middle of a tournament, is that at a final table, there's so many other factors and so many other elements that go into it. Like like ICM is such a big element that goes into playing a final table, and making correct decisions, that it's not involved at like the start of a tournament or in the middle of a tournament. Like, and not, well, ICM might be when you're approaching the money bubble, but it's certainly not to the extent that it is in a situation like this. And once that's gone, you essentially just have a three-handed match where you're playing for all the chips in play. So every decision is just based purely on chip expectation, CEV, and like you lose a complete, like one complete element of final table play. So, you know, and the biggest, like one of the biggest elements as well. So, you know, while it can still be interesting talking about the hands and how these people play their hands, it won't be nearly as intricate in terms of making decisions based off other stack sizes, based off, you know, the pay jumps that are ahead, and so on and so forth. It certainly makes things a lot less interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of like, you know, why I think a lot of, you know, like the live tournament scenes kind of don't really push for chops, just because they want those, you know, those TV final tables to be played out to the end. So.
Yeah.
But it is the players' money, so I think that it should be up to the players of where the money goes. But you know, who are we to? Well, you can, but who am I to say what's right?
I think that doesn't WSOP forbid deal making.
Yeah, they do. And that's where you got to kind of question then, if they forbid it, which is okay, I guess. But what's happening in the hallways, Marco? You know what I mean? Like. Mm-hmm. You and I can go on a break and you know, you use the restroom and have a shit, you know, shoot the shit in the stall. You know, we can make a deal.
And it opens up a whole can of worms, though, when you force people to do things like that, because there's no doubt that it still happens. Because when the deals aren't like, if the deal isn't done properly, like just as an example, like on a very small scale, which is very similar, before they had a deal-making feature on like Full Tilt, for example, back in the day.
You'd have to do it all on trust.
If you chop the heads up, sit and go, you'd have to just like take each other's word for it and send the money. And like there were cases where people didn't send the money. So it could be very similar in a live situation where, you know, by law, legally, you just won that tournament and you get given, say it's like $2 million for first, $1 million for second, and you agree to chop it. Well, the person who actually ends up winning legally gets the $2 million. And the only claim that the other person has is, oh, we agreed to a deal in the bathroom. Right. So, I mean, I think it's better if they just allow it to...
I agree.
Like, as you said before, like, if it's their money, let them deal with it, or let them
but they've got, you know, they've got the showmanship of the series to worry about as well. And it's true,
of course, yes.
And for everybody, all the folks at home, they can't... Sorry, go ahead. I just want to say, as soon as the tournament restarted, Mookie said, I'm not sure if they could see it, but they just said, you know, Mookie said, "Sick Rob, Alex." So.
Actually, Alex said "Sick Rob."
Yeah, he got $180 more than ICM.
Yeah.
But MJ, there's a question for you.
Yes.
By ET Team Scoop. MJ, can you please discuss what Zidu should have done? Wait a minute, I lost it. What Zidu should have done and said.
He should have not had the donkey avatar, for starters. It gives off the wrong impression. No, I mean...
Donkey!
Doing a deal, like... And as I said before, like, I'm not experienced in deals at all. I've done 2 deals my entire poker career, and one was because I had brags. Like I was on the final table of the Sunday warm up, and I chopped a 30 rebuy because I wanted to focus on it. And the other one was by accident because one of my friends told me that the player I was playing against was someone ridiculously good, and it turned out they weren't. So I got lied. I got tricked into doing a deal. So I'm not experienced with this kind of thing, but the only thing I could really say to answer that would be that it's down to personal preference. Like, only you can make your own assumption of your edge at that point in time. Only you can make an assumption of how much that money means to you at that point in time. And then you make your decision based off that. So clearly Ziduap was very happy to lock up 160k or 160,260, which is like significantly more than third place. So maybe he assessed that he's likely to come third at this point in time. He didn't feel like he had a skill advantage, and he didn't really want to gamble for $36,000. That meant a lot of money to him. So he was happy to give up a little bit of money and take 160. So the only way I can answer is like what he should have done or said was like whatever he personally felt and whatever his current situation allowed for.
Maybe some people should go into the poker representation business. Like, we'll represent you in deal making, and all this stuff. I know that there's already an informal.
You could have like a 1-800 number, Marco, or 1-900 number.
Yeah, like Glenn Lerner. He's all over the place here in Las Vegas.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, I know that there's already an informal, kind of like an informal guild of arbitration. Arbitrators and stuff. Arbiters, I think, is another word for them. But why not have people just kind of put up a consultancy?
Wow, that was a snap fold and after the shove by Mookie from Alex. Sorry, Marco.
No, it's okay. You know what I'm saying, MJW? What do you think?
Well, I
don't know if it would have. I don't think that would get enough business.
I know. I was just going to say, Marco, I think that the problem with this is that the people who would need that service are the people who would know what was out there, and they already have, I think, friends in their corners that can help them. The people who really need the service are the guys who have no fucking clue, and they would have no idea it was even there. Do you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Yeah, it's just a fun idea.
No, I like it. It's just that, like your average guy that makes a Sunday Million final table.
Wakeman and Associates, and then they advise you on like how to invest the big money you've spent. Like, okay, now you should be playing these tournaments and stuff.
Isn't that the 6th tier, Marco?
6th tier? I don't know. You got to ask that to MJ.
Maybe Bogan would do that. Bogan would do it. He could be the consultancy firm.
Bogan would be Perry Mason of poker. Right.
Now let's just do a little bit of role play here, Marco. You're Bogan. I'm a guy calling. Hey, Bogan. I'm at this final table. I've got the chip lead. What should I do?
Wait, no, I'm sorry. What was the question? Give it to me. Give it to me again.
I don't think it really matters. Bogan's answer will be the same. Hey, Bogan.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you there, Bogan?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm at the final table. There's 4 left. I'm first in chips. What should I be doing in this deal?
Well, I think you should play in a way that does not resemble a way the Chew plays, because he sucks, and so is MJW. He sucks, and they're terrible poker players. And
well, Bogan, I've got 18 big blinds, and I know this is right in your wheelhouse. So should I just be open shipping, or what should I be doing?
well, yeah, playing 18 big blinds is my specialty. Everyone knows that Bogan plays 18 big blinds better than Chew and better than MJW. So yeah, I think you want to make a good.
Now, obviously, I'm lacking.
I like it better. I like it better when you just do the fucking. You can't even understand what he's saying. But I
thought it was good. I like it. I thought it was fantastic. It was a perfect impersonation of Bogan.
Yeah,
that's exactly what he would have said too. I didn't actually listen. I didn't actually listen to him on Quad Jacks, but I'm sure there was a bunch of shit talking going on.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because when deal making came down to it, he put on his thinking hat, and it was quite interesting because when he was smart, he was actually quite smart. So.
He's not.
Bogan.
Wow.
That was good.
So what's happening now? They're pretty, they're pretty deep. I mean, this is
Alex is asking for a flip. Like, I really don't think that Alex has played particularly well short-handed, even though he's saying that he's the short-handed master and stuff. I feel like he got frustrated. I feel like he's tried to force things way too hard. and like tried to own people. And the thing, I don't think that he's played particularly well, to be blatantly honest. And I hope that you guys don't get tweets calling me pig-headed or anything like that. But I just don't think that he's played that well, even though he's claiming to be the better player. Here, I think Makari's played significantly better. And, you know, now he's saying that he wants to flip. I mean,
yeah, it's kind of a little amateur hour. If the guy's better, he should have been a little bit more business professional at the end here. But you know, he's probably excited. It's a big score. Yeah. He definitely. They're playing hard for this $15,000. I would have thought these guys would have been pushing it around a lot more.
Well, again, like I don't expect Ziduart to really be doing anything crazy here, because like the money clearly means a decent amount to him. Like he was happy to give some up to take the deal, so he may want to get it back by winning the tournament. And also, it's kind of smart for Makari and Ziduart to be pretty patient here, because Alex has already shown his intentions here, and like that is to just ram and jam and let's go and let's try to get it done. So those guys, by waiting until they make some hands against him, they're going to get his chips. One of them will.
Okay. Fair. And here we go. Come on, Alex. Oh, jeez, Alex.
I also thought like Alex's bet sizing in a couple of places was becoming really transparent, like on really wet board textures, by making a sizing that was really small. I thought he was making a really big mistake, because he snap folded to the first one and then snap folded to the second one. Like, it's just like if you're going to be that imbalanced, it's just never going to be good. He's making a tiny sizing on a wet board, and now makes a dumb jam, and he is out the door.
See ya, Alex.
And that was just inevitable. So
Alex is gone?
Yeah.
Heads up between Makari and Ziduart. Where's Ziduart from anyway? Portugal.
They're ridiculous. Like, they're pretty deep here. This could take a while.
Well, look, we have a policy of. I think we've lately adopted a policy of, being flexible about concluding the program ahead of time if it looks like Heads Up is going to take a decade.
So. Yeah. Well, do you want to talk about the Howard Lederer interview, Marco? I would love to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, I actually have so many that I live tweet them, which I think you've noticed.
I have read that.
I think, like I was saying earlier, at Quad Jacks, we really we witnessed the post-Black Friday agony so up close, on a number of levels. Number one, because, we followed every development. Number two, sometimes we were just close to Howard, close to Full Tilt, close to these people. We snuck up on him in the parking lot. So obviously, a Howard interview means a lot more to me to watch a Howard Lederer interview than it does to possibly just an average poker media consumer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I haven't even watched them yet, Marco. And I just want to say this much: that the amount of hate that I've seen for. Why is my mind going blank? Parvis is mind blowing. It's that's a tough spot to be in, especially for something like this. And I've watched a little bit of it. I mean, I think Parvis, for the most part that I've seen, has done a fine job. And
Parvis is fine.
Give the kid a break. You know what I mean? The guy did as good of a job as he could. That's not even what Parvis's job is. Parvis is the editor, isn't he?
No, he was. He's now the COO. But I mean, like, listen, you're talking like Parvis is getting like a lot of heat. You know, interviewer sucks and stuff. And I mean, I've had to put up with something like that like on a monthly basis for the last 2 years. You know, so
Right? Yeah, of course.
I'm well aware of.
That's what I'm saying.
What it's
It's
like
like
to
it
get
just
shit for that. And to
I just
me,
think
like
it's
the one
bullshit.
thing is, I mean, to me the thing that upsets me is just like, how could it's just absurd. It's what it is. Like, how could a guy just asking another guy questions enrage you to this point? Like, you see some people, they're just so angry.
I know.
Like, oh my fucking god, fuck this guy. It's a guy asking another guy questions. Like, it's fine, you know, it's completely fine. There's nothing to get so incensed over. And the problem is this, like, putting Parvis on makes sense. I mean, you know, I don't think I would not have handed, with all due respect to all those girls, and they're lovely. But you know, Poker News' interviewers are Christy Arnett, Lynn Gilmartin, Sarah Grant. You don't hand the Howard Lederer interview of that magnitude to these girls. You just don't do that. So who do they have? Well, they have to find someone of a certain seniority, if anything, out of respect for Howard. So it makes sense to a point.
I wish Tony G would have done it.
But Tony G would have made a theater out of it. He would have made a comedy show out of it.
What if he didn't, though? What if he actually did the interview, you know, from a perspective? I don't know. I just think it would have been interesting to see
Tony G might
ask
have
some
hit him.
questions.
I don't think Howard would have wanted to do it with Tony G. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So I think that as far as that goes, as far as like, you know, putting on some respectable seniority, at least the most you're going to find at a place like Poker News that is adaptable to this interview. I think Parvis was the right man for the job. What I have, like, Parvis has the same problem that I do, the exact same problem. Like, we have a tough time asking one question. We ask 5 or 6 questions in succession, confusing the fuck out of the guest, you know? And there are reasons for that. There are motivators for that. You know, I mean, you know, some of it may have to do a little bit with anxiety. Some of it is that, like, we really think a lot. You know, we think so much, and we can anticipate every angle. At least I can, or I typically do. I anticipate every angle of, like, what is wrong with the question as I'm asking it. Like, I cover all corners, you know. So, if indeed, and assuming that, now,
So is that like-
on, you know.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
Yeah.
so like if you were asking me the weather, would you like, so what's the weather like today? Granted, it might rain a little bit later, but the sun might come out. It's going to hit.
Yes.
You cover all the angles of the weather.
Notwithstanding the drizzle which we just witnessed, although some would call it more of a heavier rain, and of course
You know,
we're
listen.
neutral on that. Yeah, exactly. So I do
I
that a
think-
lot. Parvis does that a lot, you know, and it's.
I think that this is a good conversation, but you know what I think this was a deflection technique by MJ to not give up much of his heads-up strategy, Marco.
exactly. Yeah, we're talking about a motherfucking heads-up specialist.
You know what I mean? I've been waiting for heads up with MJW, and the fucking second it gets heads up, he's like, "Oh, hey, Marco, by the way, Howard Lederer, what did you think of those interviews?" Just by the way, if you're not worried about the heads up match that I'm actually probably the most qualified to talk about, that Lederer stuff was really good.
Well, to be honest, I'm probably a bit rusty on the on the heads up. Given that I haven't, I mean, I've been a full-time MTT for like over 12 months now.
But I mean, so it's listen. Like I don't know if you saw the other day, but Olivier Bousquet won the heads up high rollers, I believe.
Did.
Yes.
Yeah, he did.
Now, somebody like somebody that plays heads up sit and goes at the the level he does, and I believe you were playing at a very high level as well, MJ. You know, you've got to have an edge in general against most MTTers who don't get heads up
Yes.
at all.
Yes.
So I think that there's a huge edge there.
Yeah, there definitely is, and as I said a bit earlier, like it's one of the reasons why I haven't done many deals in the past is because my like heads up and free-handed game, I'm a lot more confident in, like my ranges and as particularly like my heads up game than what a lot of MTT regulars would be, because they don't get in that free-handed situation as often, or the heads up situation as often. So
Here we go.
big pot, it's all in.
Wow.
Oh, what a
It
caller!
looks like
Wow.
and it's done. We're done.
Hey, at least I
Mukhari,
got
the
I got one
Iranian
question about
assassin.
heads up in.
Sorry, Zach.
question.
Damn, I was just about to start talking about hands and doing a hand play-by-play as well.
You fuckers.
Wow.
No, it's all good. No, good job, right, Marco? What did he just score for? Let me pull up the lobby.
193 and 160.
Oh yeah, that's right. They chopped. Yeah. So he got the extra 15, and he already got the big. He already got the bigger raise as well. So good job, Mukari. Yeah. But anyways, yeah, MJ. I think that there's plenty of time. I know that it's late. I don't want to keep you too long, but whatchamacallit?
3:33 p.m. and I start my grind in 4.5 hours. I think I'll late reg it though. Until the next W Coop kicks off. Well,
listen, they can. If this is the first time you're hearing MJW on Quadjacks, I don't know where the hell you've been. MJ is a prized host of ours on Convict Corner. Very smart guy, MJ. I personally just want to thank you. Want everybody to know to follow you on Twitter at MJW006. Marco, any parting words?
To MJW? No, I mean, MJW, I've really enjoyed. Actually, I really did. Like, I enjoyed. Sounds like I'm usually being dishonest when I say I really enjoyed. But this time, yeah. Yeah, but this time, like, I really had a good time.
Fuck everybody else,
Thanks
MJ.
so much. MJW is such a. I intend to tweet very favorably about MJW and this final table as soon as we have it up on video, Zach, because MJW, you're just so elegant in the way you express yourself.
How can the Australian accent be elegant in any way, shape, or form?
The problem is that, like, when it comes to Australians, we usually deal with and chew, right? And with those guys, it's fun, but it's typically like, it's like, oh my
it's a shit show.
Like, do we need to put on like those protective goggles? Whereas with MJW, I mean, he is such a gentleman, and so I really enjoyed. I'm very, very glad that you made time for us this evening, MJW. I was always engaged. And I really had a good time. I'm very grateful.
Well, thank you, Marco. It was a lot of fun. It's always fun to talk to you guys, and I'm very proud of how far your poker knowledge has come.
I understand big blinds now.
And you understand board textures now.
Texture, that's right. Thanks to you. Thank you. We're going to have to start playing a game. Name that flop. With Mark.
Alright, guys. Well, I'm going to go and hit the sack and try to get some sleep. And thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. And hopefully does this like bring me some run good or something now that I've done this and I can go back and... Alright, that's what I was hoping for.
Or distributions in Quadjacks, speaking of the Howard interview. Okay?
I was hoping for some good karma coming from Marco. He always brings the good karma, so... And Zach, of course.
MJW, look, I mean, if you look at your Skype, how about this? I am going to hit you up on your private, here we go, on your private Skype here, and I'm going to send you, here we go, a little teddy bear hug.
Thank you, Marco. We'll go
See
a long
that?
way. Alright, and if I win a W Coop tomorrow, then we can put it down to that.
Yeah, the little teddy.
Alright, guys. Well, thank you very much for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you guys, and hopefully we will be speaking more in the near future.
Convict Corner. Coming back.
Alright, guys. Talk to you later.
You got
Take
it,
care.
MJW. Luck, sir.
Bye.